Hey team, welcome to this training where we are going to go ahead and explain what are automations and workflows, what are the awesomeness that you can do with automations and exactly how you're going to be able to help run them inside of your business and how they're going to literally change the game for your business as well. So we're going to go over the foundational understanding of everything. So that's why this training is going to be so important, because if you don't understand what we're going to talk about inside of this training, none of what we talk about next is going to make any sense, especially when we get into these step-by-step. So we are going to go ahead and talk about, hey, what are automations, which automation software to use, as well as, hey, are you going to have to build these out yourself? Spoiler alert, you're not going to, because this is awesome, right? We go ahead and help you with everything here as a part of the program. So let's go and jump into it. What are automations? So automations are going to be a small computer command program that's going to help you literally drag and drop different tasks for you. So you can kind of think of it like a little assistant that runs on autopilot whenever a condition is met, and it literally saves you hundreds of thousands of dollars in labor and admin costs, so you never have to worry about them ever again, right? So they're basically little if, and then if this is met, and the if is called trigger, then do different actions or just one action, right? So you can have it set up to do one action or multiple different actions based off of what you wanted to do, right? And you can also go ahead and time and say, you know what, wait, X amount of hours or X amount of time in between the different actions. So that is what it allows you to do. If, then, right? Now, here's a simple example is like, let's say, for example, if a client books an appointment, then send them an email immediately, right? You can dictate whatever that email is going to be, send them a text message an hour afterwards, and then 1 hour before their appointment, make sure you email them a reminder, and then 10 minutes before their appointment, go ahead and send them a text message. So that's an example of the if, and then the then, and all the different actions that you can program it to be. And then if you think about it, without the power of this very simple automation over here, right? Without the process of this automation, you would have to remember and think about when to send the text messages and emails manually, and you might have to go ahead and put a reminder on your phone, and then you got to be able to have to do that. Imagine having to try and remember that for all of your different appointments every single time, every single day, to be able to get them exactly right. It would be impossible, right? It would take an insane amount of time and energy. You'd literally have to hire somebody full time in order to be able to keep up with that, right? So with automations, you don't have to worry about any of that. You can literally, as soon as somebody schedules, they get the email, they get the text reminders, they get to be able to reschedule, you get to send them the reschedule link as well. And again, that's just one example. There's so many different things that you can actually go ahead and automate, right? With automations, you can literally build pretty much anything inside of your business, right? Think about these kinds of automations. If someone visits X page on my website, immediately send them an email. Think about how powerful that is, right? Imagine if somebody visits a website, right? Your website, and then immediately get a text message from you. It's like, whoa, this person is like omnipotent or something. They know that I'm on their website, right? If it is a contact's birthday, send them do this, right? If a contact replies with something, do this. If a contact submits a form, do this. If a contact clicks a link, do this. If a contact pays an invoice, do this, right? If a invoice is overdue, do this. If a client misses a payment, do this. If someone sends you a DM, think about how cool this is because of the fact that it's a business platform that integrates with all of these other platforms as well. So if somebody sends you a DM on Instagram, do this. If somebody sends you a DM on Instagram, hook it up to ChatGPT AI so that way to reply to them via AI. Oh, you see? So literally anything that your mind can think of, you can probably find a way to be able to automate with workflows. You can even personalize the messages inside of those specific automations and actions with the person's name, or you can customize the information that is something specific about them. How cool is that, right? It's very, very, very cool. And so this is the power of what you're going to be learning inside of this training. It's something that most new business owners don't have any idea on how to actually start or how it actually works. But I'm telling you, once you learn this skill, it is going to unlock everything for you. It is so, so, so powerful. We've been able to save over $60,000 to $100,000 every single year in people that we would have otherwise had to hire in order to actually have them do some of these automations. So now that we've learned this skill, we're able to go ahead and get these set up in our business. And that's exactly what you're going to be learning as well. Pretty cool, right? Very, very cool. So we're not joking. Unlocking this skill on how to use automations inside of your business is that powerful, but do not be fooled. For sure, this is a skill. And when we say it's a skill, it means that you start off and you think you're like, you know what? You're not even conscious of how incompetent you are on this skill. But then via the knowledge that you acquire through these trainings, you're going to start to become consciously incompetent. You're going to become conscious. You're going to become aware of how incompetent you are on how big this entire world of automations actually is. And then as you go ahead and get more knowledge and reps, you start to become consciously competent. That means that you get to have to think very hard and you can be competent. But then eventually you attain levels of mastery and you're unconsciously competent. You don't even have to try and you already know what it is that you need to do. Okay. So in the upcoming training sections, we are going to be walking you through the true power of automations and help you get the reps and the action, so that way you can actually create the building blocks that's going to allow you to be able to use this in your business. Okay, now in terms of the other question that we want to jump into, which is, hey, which software are we going to actually use? Which automation software are we going to use in order to do this? Now, in the past, we've already talked about all of the starter business softwares that are out there, and we've talked about the price tag, right? And so we've talked about, hey, you know what? These are all the different things. And one of those that we did mention earlier was going to be the business automation software, right? Zapier, Make. But the thing is that only includes 100 automations, right? And of course, that is with the price tag that adds up to $465, right? And so when you're looking at that, you're like, man, 100 automations and it still adds up to the total price tag of $465. Well, here's the thing. 100 automations is nothing, right? If you actually get set up properly with automations, you're probably going to be using hundreds, if not thousands of automations per month, right? And so here's the screenshot of the pricing of a popular software called Zapier. And so you see on here, a lot of beginner business owners who are wanting to go ahead and nickel and dime, like, oh, it's free. Look, that's very easy for me to go ahead and use. And what you don't see is like, cool, if I start using, let's say up to 10,000 automations or 10,000 tasks is what they call it per month, well, I'm getting up to, $200, $300 per month. And again, beginner business owners who are trying to nickel and dime see this word free and they don't actually know what that means because they don't have a system or a strategy to understand like, hey, that's not going to be able to include more than just a two-step zap because of the fact that you can only set a trigger and an action, and that's it. And so the problem with that is that beginner business owners want to be able to nickel and dime, but we've talked about this many times in the past, is that you don't want to be over here because this is where the entrepreneurs who are just trying to nickel and dime everything, who don't understand that in order to be in business, it is going to require for you to make some sort of investment. But you also don't want to be all crazy and just say, hey, you know what, I'm just going to lavishly spend on everything, because our approach, we've said this from the very beginning, is that our approach is to be balanced in the middle. And that's why when we recommend to you, we're thinking, okay, you know what, when we were starting out, we want to be efficient, but we don't want to be so efficient that we're nickel and diming. And at the same time, we don't want to be overspending either, right? And so that's why some of the best business owners understand this paradigm and they understand how to be able to balance both of this. And so we've said this many times before, but we want to go ahead and remind you again, because humans need to be reminded more than they need to be taught, is that this is the reason why you're inside of a program that is walking you through a system and a strategy, rather than having to hodgepodge a bunch of different Frankenstein duct tape spiderweb mess of a monster. So that way, when we were making the decision of which business platform to actually partner up for students in the community, for ourselves even, we had to say, you know what? This is not going to be something that we just randomly put together. We got to say, hey, what is going to be the thing that has the longevity? So that way, even as the business starts, there is all the things that you need. But then also as you start to grow, right? We talked about some of the professional things that you're going to need as you start to grow. So that way the business platform has all of that. So it's not this hodgepodge of like, hey, my domain is on X, my website is on Y, my automations happen here, my scheduler happens here, and it's all over the place. And so this is the reason why we can actually support with a system, because of the fact that we have already gone ahead and not only used it ourselves, but also others in the community are using it as well. And that's what's working. And so if you decide to go ahead and hodgepodge a whole bunch of stuff together on your own, you got to understand that, hey, maybe there's a good chance that we might not be able to help with that, because we at the end of the day only know what is the system and the strategy that not only we're using, but other community members are using as well. And so to answer the question, which automation software are we going to use? Normally, if we're going to go out there and go ahead and sign up for, let's say, for example, something like Zapier or Make or something like that. Yeah, we get a couple automations, right? Maybe 50 to 100 automations for a very cheap price. But then as the business grows, we're not going to be able to have that. And so that's the reason why, once again, ClientKit is going to go ahead and come in for the save, because ClientKit has us covered when it comes to being able to go ahead and have automations inside already included. So it's not like we have to pay an additional cost, which is really awesome. And on top of that, it is also going to have all of the other softwares that are going to be included for us as well, which is just absolutely insane. Now, just a reminder here, you are going to just want to make sure that you are checking on the ClientKit starter plan versus the professional plan, because especially if you're going to start to get into automations and AI and all the stuff that we're going to be talking to you about, it may actually require for you to be on a pro plan. I'm not exactly sure about that. You just want to make sure that you check with that. If you're not sure, obviously go ahead and ask inside of the community, and other community members will be able to help there as well. The other question we want to go ahead and dive into before we close out this training is, hey, am I going to have to build out these automations myself? Well, guess what? Again, this is the reason why partnerships, being a part of an amazing community, and some of the partnerships that we've been able to negotiate because of the fact that we have this amazing community that we are a part of, is because of the fact that now we're actually going to be able to build a lot of these automations specifically already built out for you, and then go ahead and literally copy and paste them into your account as our gift to you, that we're going to literally walk you through in the upcoming training sections. And then here's the cool part about this. Because this is a community, there's going to be other automations that community members members are going to build. There's going to be other automations that you are going to build, right? Outside of the ones that we provide, you're going to go out there and you're going to build automations for yourself. You're going to innovate. And then guess what you're going to do? You're not going to just hold them to yourself and hoard them to yourself. You're going to share, because when you actually share, other people are going to share with you. And that is how we all get up the mountain. There is no guru on the mountain that you're just waiting around and saying, oh, you know what? Those coaches, they're going to go ahead and create these automations for me so I can just be spoon-fed and sit around and be remote control. No. This is a community. And even the things that we are building are only building because of the fact that we're seeing, hey, this is what has worked for us. We then share them. And then some of the things that we share with you here inside of these courses, we do because of the fact that other community members actually built them. And so that is the way that you need to approach this entire mindset is, hey, I'm going to build and I'm going to share because other people are going to share with me as well. Does that make sense? I hope so. So next up, what we're going to go ahead and talk about as we start to close out this training is what's next. Now that we've broken down, hey, what are automations? We now still have a bunch of other steps to go through in terms of, hey, how does the actual automations work inside of the business platform? Hey, how are we going to actually create an automation? How are we going to manage automations? How are we going to set up notification automations, calendar reminder automations? All of these are what we are going to go ahead and dive into immediately in the next action steps and in the next training sections as well. So don't stop here. You are doing a phenomenal job. Keep that motivation and keep that momentum going. Success doesn't find you. You have to go out and get it. Ladies and gentlemen, this is you going out and getting the success that you are looking for. We will catch you in the next training section. All right, welcome to this training section. We're going to be going over understanding the automation tab. Now, this is going to be very important because you are going to be in an upcoming training section, pretty much learning how to build automations pretty consistently in your business in order to save time and streamline your processes. And so this is going to be something that's important for you to understand the ABC nuts and bolts of. So we've talked about this many times before. These are the ABCs, the Legos, the building blocks, because once you know where everything is inside of the automation tab, exactly what buttons there are that exist there, right? So it's kind of like if you were to go ahead and become a pilot and start, driving a plane or like flying a plane, it's like, okay, there's all these buttons. You got to know what these buttons do. Now, once you actually know what all the buttons do, only then can you actually get creative and say, okay, you know what? I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to do this. Well, you can't do that unless you know what the ABCs are. Okay. Now, just a quick note as we get into this, with automations, you want to make sure that you are using your computer. This is not something that you are going to use like a mobile device or an app or even the ClientKit app. Is not going to work really well to build automation. So this is all going to be something that you are looking at on your computer, through your computer or your laptop, and it's going to be very important for you to understand this. Okay, so let's go ahead and break down exactly what are all of the different buttons inside of the automation tab, what the workflow main screen looks like, as well as what the building a workflow process potentially may look like for you. Okay, so let's go ahead and start off and let's talk about the automation tab. So inside of your business platform ClientKit, there is going to be that automation tab right over there, right? So if you go ahead and on the left side, click on automation. Now, if it is collapsed, there is a little arrow icon here, right? So obviously in some cases you might want to see this as collapsed. You might want to see this as expanded. That's completely up to you. Now, once you get over here, you probably don't have all of these different workflows, right? So this is different automations that have already been built out that we've been kind of playing around with is in this test account here. But I want to show you right now is in this main screen right over here. Let's go through what is going on over here. So at the top, you will notice that we are right now under workflows. Okay, so workflows are basically different types of automations. We'll talk about that in just a second. Then there is also content AI. Now in your account, you may see campaign and triggers. You may not see them because these used to be the old way that workflows were built. So we no longer use campaign and triggers. It's kind of like an old feature that's no longer used. And I believe the ClientKit team has told us that they are working on getting that phased out. So you are not going to ever really use campaign and triggers, but the main things that you are going to use are going to be workflows. And then down the road, we are going to walk you through how to go ahead and set up content AI, because this is an AI platform, an AI tool, an AI feature that actually creates content for your business automatically. Okay, so it is a part of the automation. And so that is going to be something that we walk you through in the future. But for right now, we're not going to focus on that either. Most of our focus is going to be here under workflows. Okay, now what you are going to go ahead and notice here, let me see if I can zoom in for you just a little bit so you can see a little bit better here. Okay, so what's going to happen here is under workflows on the right side, you see here where it says create workflow. So that's the button that you would click in order to actually create a new workflow or a new automation. Okay. Then there are folders that you can create in order to go ahead and organize all of your different automations and workflows from there. Right over here, there is a button in order to change the view of how you actually see the list of your automations, right? So right now it's under list mode. If I go ahead and click on this, it'll actually organize this based off of what was most recently updated or created, right? So I can list and then most recent, right? Also over here, there is a a filter. So I can go ahead and filter based off of the status of these workflows. So the status of these workflows is going to be changing based off of if the workflow is in draft mode, if it's in published mode, if it is in paused mode. So you can see on here, we got a couple different workflows that are in draft, meaning that they are built out, but they are not going to actually function. They're not turned on, right? So published means that they are in fact turned on. Okay, so that's going to be the filter option on there. And this is again something that the ClientKit team is always consistently working on updating. So if the UI changes just a little bit, by the time you actually see this inside of your account, you'll know that this is the reason why. Okay, now over here you do see that we have the name of the actual workflow, then we have the status of it, we have the total number of contacts that are enrolled inside of that automation, we have the total number of active enrollments, right? So for example, active means that they're currently still going through the automation, and then total means all of the people who have already completed the automation and those who are still currently in it, right? So that's the difference between these two columns right over here. We have last updated, meaning that when was the automation, the workflow last updated, and then you have created on. Finally, over here, you also have these three dots right here. So if you click on these three dots, you will see that this allows us to go in and click either edit workflow, open it in a new tab. So you'll see if I click on this, it does open that up in a new tab over there, okay? And then over here, this is publish workflow, meaning that, hey, change this from being in draft to being in publish, versus if I click on the three dots for the published one, it does give me the option to actually put the workflow into draft. So if it's published, it'll be in draft. If it's in draft, it'll be published, right? And then after that, you have move to folder. So let's say, for example, you had a folder that you created over here, and let's just put this is a, or just put test folder right here, right? So test folder right here, and then I could go ahead and move this into the actual test folder if I actually wanted to, okay? So that's another option right there. Then we do also have duplicate the workflow. So if you're like, hey, you know what? I want to use this exact same workflow, but I want to duplicate it. That's how you would do it there. And then delete workflow would be here. Of course, you want to be very careful before you go ahead and do any of that. Now, this is going to be the main automation tab that we've gone ahead and walked you through right now. So that was this section here. Next up, I want to go ahead and walk you through the workflow main screen. So if I go ahead and now click on create a workflow, you'll see, and let me zoom out just a little bit here, you'll see that it says, hey, guess what? There's a whole bunch of templates that you can pick from, so that way you don't have to start from scratch when you are building out an automation, okay? So this is very cool. Not only are we going to be able to, through the partnership of ClientKit, be able to add to this down the road. Right now, I think we're still working on the logistics of how to be able to add workflow templates for you. However, ClientKit has already built out a bunch of templates, and then we are also going to actually be importing different automations inside of your account that are already built out for you as well. And we'll show you how to be able to get access to those later on, okay? So this is where all of the templates are going to be. But for right now, I just want to go ahead and walk you through starting from scratch. Now, I'm not going to spend a lot of time here because this is known as the actual workflow builder. Okay, so building a workflow. I'm not going to spend too much time. I'm just going to go over some of the main buttons over here, because what's going to happen is that in an upcoming training section, we are going to walk you through step by step on building an example automation so you can see exactly what that looks like. But let me just go ahead and walk you through what we got here in terms of the main features. Okay, so obviously this button here at the top left, this is going to take us back over to that workflows main screen. Over here, this is the pencil icon in this top part here. It does allow me to go ahead and rename the workflow, right? So I can go ahead and name this whatever I would like to name it. So I can say test workflow automation, for example, right? Over here, you will see that on the main tabs here, we have builder, settings, enrollment history, and execution log. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and walk you through these in just a second, but I do want to go ahead and walk you through the rest of the builder part over here. Okay, so at the bottom left here, you'll see that we do have a button that allows us to be able to zoom in to how much of the automation we've already built out. We can also kind of drag this around and move this around, kind of like this universal canvas that we're building an automation on. You'll see that we are able to go ahead and control the zoom here as well, so we can zoom in and zoom out of the actual builder also. And then it does also here at the bottom left move when we move to show us where we are on this infinite canvas in case you end up getting lost, okay? Over here at the top right, we do have if this workflow is actually in draft mode or publish mode, so we can turn it on or we can turn it off. We also do have the ability to test the workflow by putting a contact through this and test how it might actually look. And then we can actually save over here. So the saving is going to be something that you want to do pretty regularly, as well as we have the history of the actual workflow here as well. So if you ever made a change, you're like, uh-oh, I didn't mean to make that change, you can just click on this and see all of the different versions of that actual builder there. Now let's go ahead and actually talk about the how do you actually build an automation on here. Okay, so what's going to happen is you'll see that there is a trigger, and then there's a plus button here to be able to add an action. Okay, so let me go ahead and walk you through how this works. So we're going to add a trigger, and you'll see that there are many different types of triggers. Now, if you remember from the other training that we talked about, a trigger is the if condition that if this happens, then do the action, right? So this is the if part about it, right? So this is the trigger. And so what's going to happen is you can say, you know what, if, let's say, for example, a form is submitted or a survey is submitted, or let's say, for example, a TikTok form is submitted, or let's say, for example, somebody watches a specific video, or let's say, for example, somebody actually books an appointment. So there's so many different types of triggers that you can see. If somebody submits a invoice, there's so many different types of triggers. And then not only this, other than the list that is on here, you can actually, and this is a little bit more advanced, but I'm just going to plant the seed for you. You can literally create a trigger for literally anything using something called webhooks. It's a little bit more advanced, but literally anything that you can imagine. If this happens, I want this to happen. You can literally program it in here. So let's just go ahead and say hypothetically for right now, I am just going to go ahead and walk you through very quickly. You don't have to pay attention to this. You don't have to build this out, but in the next training section, I will help you walk you through building something out like this out. But I'm just going to go ahead and add, let's say, for example, appointment status. If somebody books an appointment in one of our calendars, let's just say hypothetically, I'm going to save this. Okay. Now I can add multiple triggers here as well, but the action that I want it to do is, let's say, for example, I want it to, I don't know, send an email hypothetically, right? So we will go ahead and put the form email, all of that stuff. It is going to give me an error here because it's going to require a different kind of over here. Let me see if I can save it. There we go. And then you'll see if I, boom, zoom out, I can also zoom in, zoom out over here. So that's pretty cool. And then this is now my little workflow automation. I can go ahead and add as many different actions as I want to be able to do this when this trigger is met. I can go and update a Google Sheet. I can go in and send a WhatsApp message. I can go in and, do a whole bunch of stuff. Instagram DM, Facebook Messenger, send a Slack message, send an SMS, so many different things. And you also have a bunch of different conditions that you can do on here. You can also hook this up to ChatGPT and add AI in order to be able to reply to different things as well. Really, really cool stuff on here. Change things on the appointment side as well. You can also go ahead and send them payments and invoices. You can add things to different marketing in terms of Facebook ads and Google ads and all of this stuff, course granting and communities. There's a whole bunch of stuff. And again, this is the value of having a business platform that is then merged with the system and the strategy that we are providing you inside of this community that is so powerful because of the fact that with the recommendations that we provided you, it literally allows you not only the foundations for your business, but also how to be able to grow your business going forward. Okay, so that is one section. Again, we'll come back to this in the future and talk a little bit more about this. I do want to go ahead and talk about settings over here. So settings is going to be important because you will see that there are things that, for example, can a contact go through this workflow multiple times? That is going to be a setting. Do you only want them to ever go through it one time? So that way, if they, let's say, for example, the trigger goes off for that contact in the future, they can't go through this workflow again. You have to turn that on if you want them to be able to go ahead and have re-entry. Do you want the automation to stop when the actual contact replies? So for example, there might be a situation where you're sending them a series of text messages and emails, but if they reply to one of the text messages or emails, you want to stop the workflow and the automation. That would be a setting that you can go ahead and turn on right over there, right? Over here, there is communication. So all of the text messages and emails are going to abide by these settings over here. So you can say, you know what? I only want you to send out the text messages and emails inside of this workflow during, the account time zone or during the contacts time zone. Let's say, for example, the contacts time zone, and only do it during this specific window. So that way you're not sending them text messages at like 2:00 in the morning, right? Hypothetically. And then you can also go ahead and put, hey, what is the default from name and the default from email that is going to be sent out when you do that? And then the conversations, toggle this if you actually want the conversations to be marked as read inside of your conversations tab. Again, a lot of powerful features here. I'm not going to go into all of the nitty gritty of it. I'm just planting the seeds so that way you can understand once we get into, hey, this is all that is existing there, and you can learn more about how to be able to supercharge this for your business and really help you go out there and build the business that you're looking for, right? After that, we have enrollment history. This is going to be all of the people who have ever been inside of this workflow and this automation is going to be a list of that. You can go ahead and filter based off of, hey, show me everybody who's been in this workflow in the last 30 days, in the last month, show me all of the different events, show me XYZ, all of that stuff here. And then execution logs, this is going to be all of the different activities for each of the contacts that was executed here. Okay, so again, these are just kind of reports, enrollment history and execution log. Whenever you're like, you know what, why didn't this automation go out? Or hey, you know what, why didn't this text message go out? Or you're just checking to see, hey, you know what, I want to check on a contact and what workflow automation they were in. These are two reports that are going to be extremely helpful for those two things. And of course, the save is going to be important here as well as you go through this entire process, saving and then deciding to add it into draft or publish as well. Beautiful. So having said that, again, I know this is extremely high level overview. We haven't gotten into the tactics. We're just planting the seeds here, but I did just want to want to go ahead and walk you through this. If I go ahead and show you this, let me show you a little bit more of an advanced one so you can see what I'm talking about here. If I go to edit workflow, you'll see, look at this. This is trigger right here. And then you can send them an SMS. After the SMS, you can tell the system to wait for, 1 minute, for example, then send them an email. And then you can tell them, hey, I want you to wait now 3 days before their appointment starts. And then 3 days before their appointment starts, I want you to send them this SMS, right? This text message, then wait again. Okay. Wait 2 days before. And then I want you to send them this email. Then I want you to wait 1 day before. And then I want you to go ahead and send this, text message 24 hours before their appointment, XYZ. So you can build a very, very elaborate workflows with the different if-else conditions and just really anything you think of automating in your business, you can go ahead and automate it. But again, this is just a high-level overview. We've gone ahead and walked you through what the automation tab and the workflow builder and what that all looks like right now, which is really, really powerful stuff for you. Now, is this everything that you are going to learn about the automation tab? Of course not. As you learn more, you are going to share in the community. As other community members learn more, they are going to share in the community. And that's how we as a community and us as a program all together are going to level up, is because all of us are going to be sharing, right? This is the reason why we keep saying this over and over and over again, is that this training that you are going through, this course that you're going through is going to be outdated relatively quickly because of the fact that things in business change pretty consistently. The only reason we even come back every once in a while to update this course is so that way new people who join the community can actually come up to date with what's going on in the community. But then after that, they need to go ahead and stay in tune with what's going on in the community, what people are posting, because you and amazing people like you are going to be posting their failures, their lessons, their questions, and that is what's going to level up the entire community as a whole. Okay, so what's next after this? We're not done yet. What we're now going to do is we're actually going to get a little bit more tactical, and I'm going to walk you through how to build your first workflow automation, so that way you can actually see, okay, hey, you know what? This is how it looks like. I'm going to go ahead and test it. And that's exactly what's going to allow you to then to build the skill of how to actually build workflow automations inside of your business and really help you make the impact, income, and freedom that you're looking for. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, this has been Understanding the Automation tab. We're not done yet. Like I said, we will catch you in the next training section. All right, welcome to this training where we are going to go ahead and help you set up your first workflow automation. Now, it's going to be important for you to understand that what we're about to do right now is we're going to help you, and you're going to follow along step by step. This is an action step. You want to make sure that you are pausing the training as you go through this, so that way you can acquire the skill with us inside of this training section. Is we're going to go ahead and help you get your first automation set up in general, so that way you have an idea of how all of this works. And then what's going to happen is that later on in this training, because remember, we're right now in the automation training, right? Right now we might be on like this training section. A couple training sections down, we're actually going to help you get specific automations set up, because in fact, we already have a lot of those built out for you, so that way you don't have to build them out from scratch. So when we say specific, we're talking about consultation, calendar reminders, emails, SMS, all of that kind of stuff is already built out for you. But for right now, we're going to go ahead and walk you through a general automation that you can then use to be able to test and get an idea of how all of this works. Now, I'm going to go ahead and mention this, is that part of this setup will and potentially may include text messaging, okay? Now, in order to do that, you need to make sure that you do have your phone number already approved. And so if your phone number and SMS text messaging is not yet approved, then what you're going to do is you're only going to test the email portion of what it is that I walk you through, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do my best to try and avoid SMS text messaging as much as possible in general, so that way even for you who may not have your A2P registration for your phone number yet approved, you don't have to worry about it. But just in case, I'm letting you know, if we do end up using SMS text messaging, you want to make sure that that is not something you use if your A2P registration is not yet approved, okay? So let's go ahead and jump right in. We are going to go ahead and talk about creating the workflow automation as well as testing the workflow automation. Again, remember, this is an action step for you to make sure that you are pausing this training section and then also going in and tinkering and clicking the buttons with me as I go ahead and do this with you. So let's go ahead and start this from scratch. What we are going to do is we are going to go over to the automations tab inside of your actual business platform client kit. You're going to go over to workflows, and then we're going to go ahead and click on create a workflow. Okay. And then we're going to go ahead and click on start from scratch right over here. And I'm just going to go ahead and name this from the get-go, so that way it's easy for us to be able to know what it is that we're going to be testing. So this is going to be test workflow via training, right? So I'm going to go ahead and kind of name it that. And then what we're going to do, and we do have all of this instructions inside of the guide as well. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to go ahead and set this trigger up. And this trigger is going to be appointment, and this is going to be appointment status, okay? Now, what this means is that when this trigger is only going to fire when an appointment status inside of the ClientKit system has actually been, we're going to add a filter, and this filter is going to be that the event is normal, and that is going to be inside of a calendar. Whoopsie daisies, what happened there? Let me actually just go ahead and do this one more time. It's probably because I was zoomed in there. So this is going to be is in the calendar, and then you're going to select what is the calendar that you want to test. So in this case, I am just going to go ahead and test the one-on-one consult NutriFit calendar. And then this is going to be my trigger, okay? So whenever an appointment status is booked inside of this calendar, okay, regardless of what appointment it is, it's going to go ahead and fire this specific workflow. I'm then going to go ahead and click on Save Trigger. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add, next up here, I'm going to go ahead and add an email, okay? So we're going to go ahead and send email. And again, all of this is documented inside of the actual guide as well, is that right over here, I'm going to go ahead and send an email. And the email that I'm going to send is going to be from name. This is going to be from, let's just say from NutriFit Wellness, okay? Now the from email here, I am going to go ahead and put in our domain email, which at this point you should already have set up. So it's going to be support at, and this is going to be in this case, nutrifitwellness.com. The subject line I'm going to go ahead and put is going to be, this is going to be, let's say, test workflow from training. Okay, awesome. And then what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and type a message. So hi, and then guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to add a custom value on here. So I'm going to put custom value, contact. I'm going to put the contact's first name. So it's going to say hi contact, comma. This is, and I can add in another one. So I can say, you know what, I want to put in, you know, for example, I want to put in who the user is. So let's say, for example, I want to put, this is full name. So this will put my username on here. So I'm on right now as John Doe. So it's going to go put, this is John Doe, right? So whoever the username is. So you could go ahead and mess around with that. And then your appointment is on, and then I can go over here and add a custom value. Again, go over here. I can go in and put appointment, and then I can put start date and time. Beautiful. Talk to you then. All right. Now, over here inside of the builder, you will see that it does allow us to have the custom values there. Let me see if I can zoom in for you and show you a little bit more right here, right? So it does allow us to be able to have custom values here. After that, this is going to be trigger links. This is a different type of automation. We're not going to walk you through that right now because we don't use it as much. But if we do use it, then you will see that show up inside of the community. If somebody else decides to innovate on it or figure out a use case for it, then we're going to learn that in the community. And then probably down the road later on, we'll probably make a training for it. This is the undo button, the redo button. We got bold, italicized, underline. We got the font type here. We have the font size right over here. We can put also the heading if it's a paragraph or a heading over here. This is going to be the add line height. So this is going to be the line height between the text over here. This is going to be the text color. Background color, if you wanted to add a bullet point, a number list over here, this is going to be the text alignment. Right over here, it looks like this is going to be further, it looks like this is going to be more formatting options on there. If you wanted to add a link, if you wanted to add an image, and then also if you wanted to change the source code, that's going to be there, as well as adding an attachment there. Now, you could also go ahead and send yourself a test email. If you really wanted to go ahead and test this out, you could do that. In this case, I am not going to do that, but I just wanted you to know that that is available there. Okay, so that's going to be there. Then obviously we do have statistics that allows us to see, you know, how many people open up this email and all that kind of stuff. We're not going to worry about that right now. I'm going to go ahead and click on save action, which is awesome. Now, what I want to go ahead and do is I do want to also go ahead and explain to you the difference between what are standard trigger events and premium trigger events. Okay, so right over here, you'll see this crown icon for some of these actions, right? Now, these are called premium actions. Okay, these crown ones over here. So these are the actions. And then there's also premium triggers. So I believe there's only a couple. So this is an inbound webhook. This is a premium trigger right here. So premium triggers are advanced triggers offered by the Workflow Builder. These are going to be, if you remember, something called usage-based features. Usage-based features means that they rely on some sort of external provider. And so there is a nominal small cost to use them because, for example, they do use something external, right? So for example, ChatGPT, there is an API. If you don't know what an API is, a little bit fancy speak for kind of some software stuff. And there is a cost that ClientKit has to pay in order to be able to use those things. And so that's the reason why these are going to be premium. And then everything that doesn't have that crown icon is going to be a standard trigger, which is completely free. That's just automatically included because that's not something that ClientKit relies on to an external provider or a service. Okay, so I just want to go ahead and explain that to you so that way you're familiar with the difference between standard actions and triggers and premium actions and triggers as well. And the beautiful thing about this is that the premium ones, that actually replaces other softwares like Zapier or Make and stuff like that because you can do everything inside of ClientKit very, very nicely. Beautiful. So that is going to be what you go ahead and actually pause and set up. Okay, so you want to make sure you set it up exactly like this because I'm going to walk you through how to go ahead and test this exact workflow together. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to make sure that you actually go in in and set this up exactly like this. Then what you want to do is you want to go over to settings. And again, this is all documented inside of the actual guide as well, is you want to go ahead and allow reentry and stop on response. So we're going to go ahead and allow reentry. And then that way, if somebody actually responds to some of the emails and stuff, we can go ahead and stop on response. In fact, I'm going to actually leave this off. So I'm actually going to go ahead and put right here, this is going to be off. Okay. And then in terms of the communication, we are going to go ahead and put this at, let's just put this at contact time zone, specific time. Let's do 8 a.m. to, let's just do 7 p.m. over here. And we're going to do turn on Sunday and Saturday. So that way it sends it on all 7 days from email. Now, this is going to be the standard. Now, we have gone ahead and actually set this up inside of the actual action as well. But from email, I'm going to go ahead and set this up here as well. This is going to be Nutrifit Wellness. And then this is going to be support at nutrifitwellness.com. Now, there are also custom values here. So let's say, for example, you wanted the sender to be, you put over here account, and you want it to be the standard account email that's on the account. You could do that as well, or you can manually type it for each of the workflows also. And then this, we're going to go ahead and just leave that off. Okay, beautiful. Now what we're going to do is I am going to make sure I hit save. It's always important to make sure you do hit save consistently because you don't want to lose the work that you have. And then we're also going to go ahead and turn this workflow on and then hit save one more time. So that way it does in fact save that this workflow is now going to be published. Now what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to go ahead and actually test this workflow. So there's a couple different ways that you can actually test a workflow, okay? Now you can test a workflow by clicking on test workflow, and then you can select yourself, or you can select a specific contact from your contact management system here, and then you can go ahead and do that. So that's going to be one way that you can test. However, the way that I want to go ahead and test this specific one, because this one is going to be whenever there is an appointment that is filed, right? So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to duplicate this tab right over here, and you want to follow along with me. Make sure that you're taking action. You're not being one of those failure uniform students who doesn't follow along. So, oops, let me see. I moved a little bit quick there, okay? So let me show you what I just did right over there, right over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to come over here. I'm going to duplicate this tab. So right click on the tab inside of your browser. I'm going to click duplicate in your Chrome browser. From there, I'm then going to go ahead. It's going to duplicate this tab. I'm going to go back to workflows, okay? And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go ahead and I'm going to book an appointment, okay? So what we're going to do is, let's just say hypothetically, let's go over to calendars. I'm going to go ahead and select the trigger calendar that I know exists there. I'm going to go ahead and share. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to open this up into an incognito window, and I'm going to give you an example of, let's say somebody was to book an appointment on their side. And let's go ahead and see if that trigger actually fires, which is going to be pretty cool to see how all of this functions. Now, in case, I think right now, it's probably because of my internet and I'm recording. So I'm going to go ahead and just refresh here real quick, give it a second, make sure that it does actually show up here. And then when it actually loads over here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just select an appointment. Now, what you can do is you can actually enter in your information here. I'm not going to enter in my information because obviously I'm not going to go log into my personal things here on the video. However, you can enter in your personal information here and check and test to make sure that you get that email notification that we set up. In this case, I'm just going to go ahead and set this up as a new contact. So let's put Brad Pitt. This is going to be over here. Let's go ahead and put Brad Pitt's phone number, just like that. That's not going to be a real number. It's not going to let me go through here. Let me see. There we go. Okay. And then this is going to be bradpitt@gmail.com. And then I confirm right over here, and then I schedule a meeting. Okay, now I don't know if this is going to be actually go to Brad Pitt's email here, but what I want to show you is if I now go back and I come back over here to this tab that we're here, right? And then I go over into enrollment history. Look at that. It did in fact fire. So it does show me that Brad Pitt has been enrolled inside of this, and it has finished as well, which means that it has gone ahead and finished the workflow automation. And the execution log, it'll show me exactly what it did over here, right? So Brad Pitt entered into the workflow, and then it sent him the email, and then it removed him from the workflow because of the fact that he already finished going through the workflow. And so if I want to see if that email actually went through, guess what I can do? I can come over here. I can go back and go over to my contacts. I should see Brad Pitt has been added into my CRM, my contact management system. I can click on that. And then guess what? I should be able to go ahead and see right over here. It should show me that exact email. And check this out. This was our custom value. Hi, Brad, right? Remember that custom value we set up? This is, now it didn't put any name over here because of the fact that, why didn't it do that? Let me go ahead and check over here. So it didn't put username. I don't know why I didn't put the username, but in that case, I would just go ahead and make sure that in the future it's just John Doe. Oh, the reason why I didn't put a user, I understand why I didn't put a user, is because this is an appointment that Brad Pitt booked on his side. So I don't have a setting set up so that way it automatically puts John Doe, the username, attached to that appointment. So that's probably the reason why it didn't attach it there. Okay, so that makes sense now. I understand why the system do that. And then your appointment is on, and then it has the exact time, talk to you then. Now, what you will see is that this did not go through. It says that the email account that you tried to reach does not exist. Well, who knew? Who knew that Brad Pitt's email is not actually bradpitt@gmail.com? Okay, so obviously this is the reason why you want to make sure that you are testing for yourself that is an actual email. Okay, so in this case, bradpitt@gmail.com is not a valid email. It does not actually exist, and that's the reason why this did not go through. So you want to make sure that you are testing this so you can actually see if the email gets delivered, does it end up in spam, all of the business sending options that we've helped you walk through before. And then obviously if things are working very well, hey, post that win in the community. Let people know, hey, this training is still active. It still works. Woohoo, we should celebrate that, right? But if it didn't work, make sure you are also posting in the community, letting the community know, hey, this training, I tried it. It didn't work for me. What's going on? So that way the entire community, that's where the most recent learnings are happening around what is working and what is not working. What you will also notice here on the right side, it does also give me the log of all the activities that Brad Pitt took inside of the system in terms of visiting a page, what time he visited the page, what time he booked the appointment, as well as the actual appointment that was booked as well. How cool is that, right? So that's how all of these automations work because of the fact that we built this out here. It registered the trigger and then it sent Brad Pitt the email there. And it did also go ahead and use the custom values there. We did go ahead and show you the enrollment history. It shows you everything there, the execution logs as well, and then also the settings in terms of what that looks like there. And then, like I said, if you do want to go ahead and test a workflow, you can always use this test workflow option here. But the difference is that if you test a workflow using this option here, obviously no appointment has been booked. And so when no appointment has been booked, that's where this time is not going to show up inside of the email because obviously when you're testing it from here, it's not like an appointment was booked. And so that's the reason why a time doesn't show up. If that doesn't make any sense to you, trust me, the more you play around with it, it will make sense over time as you get more and more used to creating automation. So we talked about draft versus publishing. We talked about testing the workflow and the button via that, the enrollment history. We talked about the execution logs as well. And then the last thing I want to go ahead and show you here is I'm going to go ahead and name this very quickly just as a test so it's easy for me to find. I'm just going to call this Brad Pitt real quick. You don't have to do this, but I'm just going to go ahead and call this Brad Pitt here real quick because what I want to show you is if I go back, and let me actually just save real quick and then go back. And then if I search over here and type in Brad, it'll show up right here. And then you'll see it does show me how many people totally have been enrolled inside of this workflow right over here. And then also has the active enrolled, meaning how many people are actively involved. So right now there's 0 because Brad Pitt did finish that workflow. And then the total enrolled right here, I can actually go ahead and click on that 1 and it'll actually take me directly to the enrollment history there and show me who were the people who were actually inside of the workflow at a certain time, right? So that's all the cool stuff related to actually building and creating the workflow. Okay, so now again, I would recommend, this is not even just a recommendation, this is like a requirement that you need to make sure that you actually go in and build the exact workflow that we walked you through inside of this training and then go out there and actually test it. Look at the enrollment history, look at the execution logs, actually go out and test the test workflow and see, hey, coach told me that this is what happens. Let me see, how does it actually work, right? Test the custom values, go out there and see if you get the email, try different triggers on here as well if you really want to do so that way you can see, hey, how does all of this work? Because I promise you, you are not going to learn if you just sit there and be like a entrepreneur, a failure uniform student who doesn't actually take the action. The professional entrepreneurs, the one who actually succeed, don't only get the knowledge, but they do the reps, they do the tinkering, they do the clicking around over and over and over again, because the more reps you get, then that is going to allow you to get the skill, right? Because if you have knowledge 1 times reps 0, anything times 0 is just 0. But the more reps you have, that is going to equip you with the skills you need in order to make sure that you are successful with the business. Okay, now in terms of specific automations, I did mention that this was the in general automations. Now we're going to go ahead and in the future, in the upcoming training sections, in just a little bit, walk you through the specific actual automations as well. However, we are not done yet. We still have to talk about how to manage automations and then how to create different specific automations as well. So make sure you are following along inside of the training. We're not done yet. Keep the momentum going. You're doing a phenomenal job. I know, hey, this is the foundations. These are the ABCs. I promise you this is going to pay off. We will catch you in the next training section. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this training section. We're going to be talking about how to manage automations inside of ClientKit. Hey, how do you actually add people into automations in different ways, right? Can you do it manually? Yes, we're going to talk to you exactly about that because this is going to allow you to understand, hey, how do I add people to workflow automations? How do I take them out? What if there's an issue? What if I don't want them to be in this automation? That is exactly what we're going to go ahead and walk you through right now. There's going to be a couple different methods. We're going to talk to you right now. Let's go ahead and jump right into this. Number one is going to be via trigger that is an automatic trigger. So we've talked about this already, right? So in the previous training, we did set up the Brad Pitt automation on here. So this is going to be the automatic way that people can enter into automations, which is going to be via the trigger, right? So whenever this if trigger is met, then it is going to go ahead and fire the actual automation. But what if you are in a situation in which you're like, you know what? I want to go ahead and put this person into this automation, or maybe there is no trigger and I want them to be able to receive these, emails and text messages. How do I actually do that? Well, the first method here, this is the automatic method, right? This is like, cool, based off the trigger, they're going to get enrolled in here, right? But there is a different method. Let's go over method number 2, where let's say, for example, we go over to contacts and then I go over to LeBron James, right? Now, if I'm here under the contact page, what I can also do is right over here on the left side, right over here, let me go ahead and put this, right over here on the left side, and if I zoom in, you'll be able to see a little bit better, is you'll be able to go ahead and click on this right here, and then you can actually go ahead and add LeBron James into a specific workflow automatically. So you can select over here and say, you know what, I want to go ahead and add him into the Brad Pitt workflow that we had created previously. So even though LeBron James has not booked an appointment, let's say randomly, I don't know why I would want to do this, but this is just an example, I wanted to add LeBron James into this specific workflow. Well, I can do that by going and manually doing this. Now, I can also go ahead and add an event time if I wanted to, or I don't have to add an event time. I can just say, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and add him directly into this workflow. Boom, it's going to add him in the workflow. I can refresh. And what you're going to notice now on the left side, wherever that workflow was, give it a second here to load. And then right over here, it will say past workflows. And you'll see that it means past because it has already finished executing this workflow right over here, right? So that Brad Pitt workflow has now moved from active into past. And then what you will see is that right over here, it should have sent him an email. Now, why didn't it send him an email? Let's go find out. So this is, again, where we learn how to troubleshoot. As we go over to automation, I'm going to go ahead and go over to the Brad Pitt automation here. You'll see that it does say 2 was enrolled, and you'll see that it did say that the LeBron James one was finished. If I look at the execution logs, it probably didn't actually send the email. So it says skip the email. Why did it skip the email, right? So it didn't actually send him the email because it doesn't look like I can see the email here. So what I can do is I can come over here and click on view details, which is really cool. And it'll say, hey, this was skipped. The email was skipped because you have an invalid email in there. Okay. So apparently trying to use celebrities' emails, kingjames@gmail.com is not working out too well for me inside of these demo accounts. But the point being is that if that was a valid email, then he would have actually received that email as a way to be able to go ahead and do this via the actual contacts page. Okay. So again, you can go ahead and manually add people into actual workflows through the contacts page, which is going to be another method or a good tool for you to use. Another way that you can do this under conversations. So if I go over to conversations, I go over to all, let's say I go over to Elon Musk, I can come over here, and right over here on the right side, you will see that it does allow me to say, hey, active campaigns and workflow. So right over here, I can click, and then right over here, I can now go in and actually add Elon into that Brad Pitt workflow as well if I really wanted to, right? So I can go ahead and do the exact same thing right over here, and I click on save, and then guess what? It's probably going to kick out as well. Oh, in this case, guess what? Mars for Life is an actual email. Who knew? So it'll go, hey, hi, Elon, this is, and then again, all of the custom values are not showing up, and then is on an invalid date. Why did it show up as an invalid date? Because obviously the actual trigger for this workflow is to actually go ahead and fire whenever there's an appointment. So Elon didn't book an appointment. That's why it's an invalid date. However, let's say, for example, I was going to go ahead and change this entire workflow and not be a appointment reminder workflow. This was going to be, let's say, a different type of workflow. There's so many different triggers that we could have set up, and that would be another way that I could have gone ahead and put Elon into this actual workflow. Okay, so that's going to be via the conversation tab is another way that you can go in and actually do that. The other way is going to be via the contact tab. So if I go over here and I go over to contacts, and then let's say, for example, I select Taylor Swift off of this, right? And then you are going to see that at the very top, there's like this robot icon that says add to a campaign or a workflow. I can go ahead and click on that. And then it'll allow me to say, okay, cool, this is going to take over a period of time because it's a bulk action. Okay, no problem. And then I can go ahead and select, hey, put Taylor Swift inside of this specific workflow. And then if I had multiple people that I was going to add into a workflow, I could go ahead and do a bulk action that way. And then I can go ahead and add them directly into that workflow that way also. So you'll see, I'm not going to go ahead and do this right now because at this point, apparently I am very bad at guessing what celebrities' email addresses are. So it probably is not going to send through. But I just want to go ahead and let you know, like, hey, when you actually have real data, like your own contacts, your own information, that's the reason why when we tell you to test, you're actually testing to see, hey, does this work? Because in the actual trainings, it's hard for me to show you A to Z everything. We're doing our best, but it's very difficult because we don't actually have real life data here. But that's the reason why you can test this for yourself. Okay. So ladies and gentlemen, is this all the methods of how you can actually go ahead and put people into automations? The answer to that is no, but you are going to come across more and more of those. And the reason why it's important to be familiar with all these different methods is because each one is going to be used differently as the ABCs Legos of your business. And so it's important for you to be familiar with this. And then, hey, like we've said many times before, all of your favorite apps are updating their UI all the time. The latest and greatest learnings are going to be happening in the community. So if things are working for you, make sure you're posting in the community. If things are not working for you, make sure you're posting in the community. Make sure that you are keeping up to date with the community as well. And then remember, there is a give and ask. So if you ask in the community, you also have to make sure that you are giving, because that is how the actual virtuous cycle works. You can't just ask, because then you will never actually receive either. Okay. So that is all going to be inside of the community as well. Make sure that you go in and actually test these different methods that we've talked about inside of the training. Make sure you pause. This is an action step. Don't be a failure uniform student, a wannabe entrepreneur. This is the reason why small business owners stay small, because they don't take the actions necessary in order to actually develop the skills that are going to allow them to be able to play business at a higher level. So it's not just about the knowledge, it's about the reps as well. So make sure you go out there and actually pause this training and go test this. Ladies and gentlemen, we have talked about a bunch of the different methods on how to actually manage automations inside of ClientKit. Go out there, take action. We're not 100% done just yet, because next up, we're going to go ahead and talk to you about how to actually create specific automations. But this has been this training section on how to go ahead and actually manage automations in ClientKit. We will catch you in the next training section. All right, welcome to this training section where we're going to be walking you through how to create notification automations. Okay, so in the previous trainings, we walked you through how to create an automation in general. Now it's time to actually get into creating specific automations that you're actually going to use inside of your business. And one type of automation that we're going to walk you through is creating notification automations. Okay, so let's go ahead and actually talk about, hey, what are notification automations? So notification automation, that's what's going to be the next bunch of training sections that you see right after this training section, are going to be automations that actually notify you when something happens inside of your business. So let's say, for example, somebody submits a form, when somebody books an appointment. Well, guess what? You're going to need an automation for those things, so that way you are aware of that, and then you can obviously build on top of that as well. So what I want to go ahead and make clear is that this is a entry-level type of automation, and the reason why we're going to go ahead and help you get these set up is because they're very good to practice with. Or we're kind of like wetting your feet here a little bit and slowly starting to get into, and obviously you can go really advanced, really crazy with automations. We've seen some crazy automations that some community members have been able to create. But what we're doing here is we're building you slowly, and that's why notification automations are a great place to actually get started with this. Now, heads up, in the next immediate action steps, what we're going to go ahead and show you in the next training sections is we're going to help you prioritize what are the automations that you're going to actually use inside of your business. Because like I said, there are literally unlimited types of automation that you can create. So many if this, if that, if this, do this, do this, do this, right? You do not want to be overwhelmed by creating too many automations. You want to stick with exactly what you're going to use. And then obviously down the road, if you go ahead and keep your membership status active with the Institute, these trainings are going to be available for you to come back to explore. But more importantly, if you keep your membership status active inside of the Institute, then more importantly, you're going to have access to the community and the insiders who are then sharing what is actually working there as well. So that is most important there. So that way you can always reference and come back and build other automations as you go ahead and build out your business more and more. Beautiful. So with that being said, before we jump into the actual specific automations to build out, I do also want to go ahead and make this clear. Are you going to have to figure this out yourself? Well, guess what, ladies and gentlemen, at this point, you're probably like, hey, you're towards the end of Business Basics. You're like, yo, I got this. There's a system and a strategy. It's all built together. This is exactly why we're going to be able to go ahead and literally handhold you, walk you through step by step as a beginner, because that's what you are right now, on how to build this from scratch. So that way you don't have to wonder, hey, how am I going to be able to go ahead and do this? And then if you're wondering like, hey, what about other notification automations? Again, that's a part of the community. That's the reason why the community is so important. I feel like we say this in every training. It's like, oh man, this is like tattooed on the inside of my forehead. And hopefully at this point, you're like, okay, we get it. But we're going to have to remind it over and over again, because guess what? There's going to be some members and some students who just don't remember exactly how that works. And so that's exactly why we want to remind you, hey, don't worry. We're here to help you. We're here to support you. And you're not going to have to figure this out yourself. And all the real world learning is going to be happening as inside of the community. It's going to be very, very beneficial for you. Okay. So what's next right after this training section? Right after this, we're now going to go ahead and jump into some of the basic initial primary, fundamental notification automations that you can build. And we're going to walk you through them step by step inside of those training sections. So make sure you actually do the action steps that we're going to directly follow right after this. You're doing a phenomenal job. You're making amazing progress. Keep up the effort. This is literally laying brick by brick the foundations of your business. So keep on pushing forward. Success is just around the corner. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the intro for creating notification automations. We're going to catch you in the next training section. We're going to help you actually build these automations now. All right, welcome to this training where we're going to be talking about how to set up a specific automation, which is going to be the chat widget notification automation. So the reason why we're going to go ahead and set this one up is because when you get people who actually fill out or message you via your chat widget on your website, you're going to need to have a notification so that way you know that somebody's actually trying to reach you. Now, this is going to be one of the more easier ones to set up. And so we did say this in the previous training section where we're kind of walking you through the ones to get your feet wet, the ones that are easier in the beginning, so that way you can get a feel of how these automations are actually going to work. And so that's the reason why we're not going to give you an actual copy and paste template for this one, because we actually purposefully want you to go out there, because it's such a simple one, to actually go out there and create it. And then you can go ahead and get a feel of how all of these are created. And then once we get to more of the advanced ones later on that are specific, right? The ones that have like 10, 15, 20 different steps on there, those are going to be the ones that we go ahead and give you copy and paste for. Okay. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into creating your chat widget notification step by step. Of course, we are going to be inside of your business platform client kit. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and go over to automation over on the left side. And then once we go over to automation, we are going to go ahead and be on the workflow tab here. And you probably aren't going to have all of these workflows on here. This is just kind of a test account, so that's why we have a whole bunch on here. But what you're going to do is you are going to go ahead and go over to create a workflow. Okay, so on the top right. And then once you click on create a workflow, we're going to go ahead and start from scratch here. Okay, so we'll go ahead and click on continue for starting from scratch. And then the very first thing that we usually like to go ahead and do once you go ahead and jump into this is we are going to go ahead and actually rename this specific workflow to be right up here. And we're going to go ahead and click on the name, and we're going to go ahead and type this as chat widget notification automation. Okay, so we don't have to type in the word automation because obviously all of these workflows are automations, but that's going to be the first thing that we do directly there. And then from there, what we're going to go ahead and do is, and I'm going to say I had notifications. I'm going to go ahead and make a nice S there. Okay, then right here, we're going to go ahead and click on trigger. Okay, so trigger is going to be the first thing that we do. Now, if you remember from the training, we said that the trigger is the thing that, what is the if statement? What is the thing that has the condition that has to be started in order for this entire workflow to actually begin, right? And so what we're going to do is we're going to do customer, and this is going to be customer replied. Okay, so this is going to be customer replied. And customer replied, we're going to add a filter right here. And then the filter that we're going to add is that the actual channel is going to be, so add a filter, the reply channel right over here. So you see reply channel, boom. And whoop, what did it do over there? Oopsie daisy. So let me, probably because I'm zoomed in because I'm recording here, didn't register that. So right here, we're going to go over to reply channel. And then the reply channel, we're going to go ahead and make that a chat widget. Okay, so it's going to be customer replied, reply channel, chat widget. So that way we know when somebody actually replies on the chat widget. We're then going to go ahead and click on save. Okay. And then from there, what we're going to now do is say, okay, when the customer replies, what do we want it to do? We're going to go ahead and add an action. And this action that we're going to go ahead and add is going to be a notification. So it's going to be send an internal notification. Okay. Click on that right there. And then the type of notification, we're going to go ahead and select. This is going to actually be a normal notification. Now, here's the cool thing about this, right? So this is where we are getting your feet wet so you can start to understand how these work, is you could decide, you know what? I want to receive to yourself an email notification. I want to receive to myself an SMS notification. In this case, we are going to go ahead and set this up as an internal notification. So let me go ahead and show you what that would look like. So I'm going to duplicate this tab that we have here, and then I'm just going to go back over to the main screen for Client Kit right over here. And you'll see that these notifications appear. This is what we're talking about when we talk about internal notifications, right? So it's the notifications that are inside of your app. And then these are also going to be the notifications that happen on your actual mobile app as well, right? So the Client Kit mobile app that you download, that's also going to be here as well for you on your phone, okay? So this is what we mean when we say internal notification. So for right now, that's the one that we're going to go ahead and set up, okay? So this is going to be an internal notification. And then what we're going to do is at the title of this, we're going to go ahead and put the title of this as website chat notification. And then what we have is inside of the actual guide, we actually have here a message that that you can actually copy, okay? So, and the reason why we have this message that you can copy is because it does have some custom values in there. And if you remember, we talked about custom values in the past. Custom values are basically, hey, how do you actually go ahead and auto-populate information for that specific individual from here? So it's like, okay, contact name has reached out using website chat, phone, email, and then here is their message. Now, once you have that all nice and spaced in there, of course, if you want to add more custom values and you want to customize it, of course, completely up to you. Of course, right now, I'm pretty sure you understand you don't want to be a remote control student who wants to be spoon-fed, right? Yes, we're giving you this, but if you come up with any innovative, creative ideas that you want to test with, you want to kind of, say you want to change it around, feel free to do so, right? This is not like you have to set this up in this exact way. We're just showing you, hey, this is one way that you could actually go ahead and set this up. And we've talked about this many times before that, hey, everything that we're even teaching you, we just learned either by doing ourselves or we just learned from other community members who did an amazing job of innovating on themselves, right? And so that's the reason why we're showing you this specific way, but go ahead and change it up if you want to, okay? Now, redirect page. So the redirect page on here, this is just going to be contact. So this means that once you actually click on the notification, what do you want it to happen, right? So when you click on the notification here and you click on this, where do you want it to actually take you? It's going to be contact. And then it's going to go to user type. The user type is just going to be yourself. And let me see if I can go ahead and there we go. So you might have to scroll down a little bit. And so to user type, you're going to go ahead and put all users, or you can put to particular user. It's up to you. So this is going to be, who do you want the notification to go to? Do you want it to go to all the users meaning all the people in your team if you have more than one person on the actual account? Or do you want it to go to a particular user or to go to the user that is assigned to the contact? So again, this might be something that you change as you go ahead and get more and more of a bigger team. Or if it's just yourself, you can go ahead and have just all users if you want to have a particular user, and then you could select yourself from the drop down. If your name is John Doe or just whatever your name is, just select yourself from there, right? From there, we can go ahead and click on save action. And you'll see that now what we've done is we've gone ahead and created a very, very simple automation. Now, we're not done yet. What we got to do is a couple different things. We got to go over and save, most importantly, very important. Make sure you save regularly and consistently. We're then going to go over to settings, and we do want to go ahead and allow re-entry. So that means that the same contact, every single time they reach out via the website chat, they can get re-enrolled into this automation. That's going to be very important there. We're going to go ahead and save there once again. And then we are going to actually go ahead and publish this one and save once again there as well, okay? And so that way what we can do now is that we're going to have, whenever a customer replies via the website chat, okay, we're going to go ahead and have an internal notification that gets sent to us with this title and this message. Awesome. And then we also have the settings that is also going to allow for re-entry for that contact. And then we just go ahead and make sure we save, and we have gone ahead and published that as well. Awesome. So cool. We've gone ahead and set this up now. So what we are now going to go ahead and do, and this is very important, every single time you do this, you do want to make sure that you go ahead and test this workflow. Okay. So what we're going to go ahead and do right now is we're going to go ahead and test this workflow. So I'm going to just go ahead and into the workflow over here. So chat widget notifications real quick. So a couple of things that we can do in order to test this workflow, right? So first thing we could do is I could click on test workflow. Now, sometimes test workflow works for certain workflows. Sometimes you actually have to go in and do the actual trigger, right? So customer replied. I don't know if it's going to fire this way, but let's go ahead and test this out. So let's go ahead and put this for Elon, and let's run this test. And if I go over to enrollment history, it'll show me that current action, no action. Let me go over execution log. It'll tell me added to workflow, internal notification, remove from workflow. Okay. Then, oh, look, it did work. Look at that. That's awesome. Okay. So what I did was I just flipped over to a new tab that I had open here, right? And then I went ahead and did notifications. And then you'll see right over here, it does go ahead and send me, hey, website chat notification. Elon Musk has reached out using website chat. This is his phone number, and then here is their message. Look at that. That is awesome. Okay, so it did in fact work for this workflow by using the test workflow button here. But what we're going to do is one more thing that we're going to do is we are going to go ahead and go into our website, right? So I want to do like a real test, not just a test that works from there. So I'm going to go and do a real test. And what we're going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and preview link, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and actually open this up in an incognito window. So what I did was just FYI, I did that really quickly there. I previewed the link, I copied the URL there, and then I went ahead and did new incognito window. I'm going to go ahead and paste the website right over here, okay? And then once this actually loads, I'm going to go ahead and go into our own website chat. So you're going to do this on your own website. This is very important. Make sure you're pausing and you're following along because you want to make sure that you're doing this with us, okay? Now, right over here, what we're going to go ahead and do is this is going to be Justin Timberlake, okay? Justin Timberlake's phone number happens to be, if you guys didn't know, he does not have a Canadian number. Let me go actually just zoom out here real quick. I just gave him a Canadian number. 1 second. There we go. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and because ClientKit is smart. It actually looks at the area code, and then if the area code is in Canada, it'll change the country code. So that's not what we want. Now, he is not Taylor Swift. So let me go ahead and X this out. And then we're going to go Justin Timtim at gmail.com. Hi, how are you? Reach out to me. Okay, that's going to be the message. And we're going to go ahead and send message. Okay, so it's going to send message. There we go. It does that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back over here. I'm going to see notifications, and look at that, ladies and gentlemen. We now have right over here website chat notifications. So it says Justin Timberlake has reached out. That's his phone number, that's his email address, as well as that is the message. Now what we do is if we click on that actual notification, it should take us over to Justin Timberlake's profile page. Oh, look at that, his contact page right here. And it did, and there's Justin Timberlake's message. And if you remember from contact management, it should go ahead and add Justin Timberlake into our contact management system as well. And just like that, you'll see that Justin is in fact inside of our contact management system, and then that message does in fact show up right over here under conversations, Justin Timberlake, and then it says, hey, great, right? Reach out to me, right? And so that is the message, that is the notification, that is the automation that we've gone ahead and set up. So again, what's next after this? We're not done yet. We have a couple others that we want to go ahead and walk you through so that we can get your feet wet and get really into the habit and really into the skill of building these automations. So again, please do not be one of those failure uniform students who does not actually pause the training and go out and take action. This is what you need to do. You need to go out and take action, because unless you do the repetition, this knowledge literally means nothing. You need to go out and do the repetition so that way you can actually unlock the skill and build this out with us, because I promise you, the more you do it, the more repetitions you do with it, it's going to go ahead and solidify inside of your mind. So having said that, we're not done yet. In the next training section, we are going to go ahead and walk you through a couple other notification automations that we are going to recommend that you do go ahead and get set up. But ladies and gentlemen, for right now, this has been the chat widget notification. You're doing great. Keep up the hard work. Keep up the work. I promise you, as long as you stay focused on your goals, the finish line is not as far as it seems. This is all going to add up. It's going to compound. It's all going to build into who you are becoming throughout this entire process. Ladies and gentlemen, we will catch you on the next training section. All right, welcome to this training section where we are going to be going over the contact form notification automation. So what is this automation? This is going to be that you get a notification whenever someone fills out a contact form on your website. So again, I know these kind of contact notifications or these kind of notifications that we're setting up as automations might seem mundane, but these are very important because they not only notify you when somebody fills out something on your website, so that way you can be proactive. Because the thing is, like, these are leads, right? These is actually real leads in your business, potential sales, potential customers. And so it's going to be so important. I know they seem very simple. They seem like, hey, you know what? Do these really make that big of a difference? But I promise you, it helps make sure that you are being on top of your lead nurture and making sure that that is how you can make sure that you're not losing potential clients. Okay. So again, this is going to be a very simple workflow, but a very important one. And it's going to be one that we're going to go ahead and walk you through step by step. So that way you can get your feet wet on how to build workflows from scratch. Okay. So let's go ahead and jump into it. Contact form notification automation. What we are going to go ahead and do, as always, we're going to be here under automation tab, because that is where all of the automations live. We're going to be here under workflows. Again, you might not have all of these, but you are going to have maybe some that you built previously, right, based off the previous training section, maybe not. But what we're going to do right now is we're going to go ahead and click on create workflow, and then we're going to go ahead and click on start from scratch. Now, all of this is documented inside of the guide. So the name of this workflow is going to be the website contact form. Okay, so this is going to be website contact form notifications. Okay, that's what I'm going to go ahead and call that one there. And it doesn't say notifications in the guide, so I'm just going to add notifications right over here. So this is going to be notifications. Now the trigger is going to be add a new trigger, and the trigger is going to be when a form is submitted. Okay, can you see that right there? That's going to be the trigger is when a form is submitted, and we're going to go ahead and add a filter. And the filter that we're going to add is that the form is, right? So we have to tell the automation, like, hey, what is the form that needs to be submitted in order for us to trigger this entire workflow? And so the form is going to be the main website contact form. So that's the actual form that we have embedded inside of your website, right? If you remember way back when, we went ahead and did that in a previous training section. If you need to review that, obviously that's in a different training section. So we then go ahead and click on save trigger. And so you'll see on here, we have the trigger that when the form is submitted, it's going to start all of this. The action that we're going to go ahead and have it do. And the action is going to be, and I'm going to type in note, right? Notif, right? Type in notif right there, and it'll go ahead and open up right here, send internal notification. From there, we are going to go ahead, and we talked about this in a previous training section. You can go ahead and program this to send yourself an email, an SMS. In this case, we are going to go ahead and have it send an internal notification. Okay, so an internal notification, just to go ahead and remind you very, very quickly, is going to be the notifications at the top right that show up inside of ClientKit. Those are going to be the internal notifications as well as the ones that happen on your phone if you have the ClientKit app. Okay. Now the title of this is going to be right over here, free game plan request. Now the reason why we're going to title this the free game plan request is because kind of the wording that we have right now inside of the actual contact form on your website is like, hey, if you want a free game plan session, aka kind of like a strategy session, kind of like a consultation, then go ahead and fill out this form. Now for you, based off of the verbiage that you have in your website, if you went ahead and tweaked it, this may not be the most applicable title. And so in that case, you might come, and again, we've said this before, don't be a remote control student, don't be a remote control business owner who wants to just be spoon-fed, because guess what? You're not going to succeed in business if you're waiting for somebody else to give you all the answers, right? Literally, business is a game of problem solving. And so if you want to be able to go ahead and innovate on this, you got to say, cool, you know what? This might instead be just like, contact form, website contact form filled out, right? That could be potentially your title. Maybe. Okay. And then the message that you can go and have right over there. Okay. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to put this right here. So contact name, and this is going to get automatically populated based off of the person who filled this out, has requested a game plan session. So I might change this. In my case, in my example that I'm giving you here, has gone ahead and filled out the website contact form. Okay. Reach out to them right now, phone, email. Beautiful. And then the redirect page, this is going to be when I click on the actual notification, I'm going to go ahead and do that over to the contact. I could also go ahead and do the conversation. So in this case, you know what? I'm going to kind of play around with this. Let me go ahead and put this directly to, in this case, let's do contact. I was going to say, let's put it to the conversation, but I'm going to put this onto the contact. Maybe on the other one where we talked about the website chat notification, that maybe could be directly to the conversation. But in this case, we'll do contact, no problem there. And then this is going to go out. Let's just put this over to all users, sure, not an issue. But again, we talked about this in the previous training section. If you have more team members, you can have this notification go out to a specific team member right over here, okay? So then we go ahead and click on Save Action. Beautiful. Now, what we are going to go ahead and do over here is we are going to go ahead and save. Very important. Settings, I am going to go ahead and also allow re-entry so that way the same contact can get put into this website chat notification multiple times. I'm going to go ahead and hit Publish. And I'm going to go ahead and hit save once again. Very important. Okay. Then what I'm going to do here is I am going to go ahead and test the workflow in a couple different ways. So the very first way that we're going to go ahead and test the workflow is going to be using the test workflow button. Now, I hope at this point you are not one of those business owners who literally just sits around and doesn't take action because you're going to be a entrepreneur business owner. Okay. Because the truth is that you should have been building this along with me, because of the fact that just watching me build this doesn't do anything. It's kind of like watching those individuals on like YouTube. Those are people who are just like, playing video games instead of actually, they're watching people play video games, not playing the video game themselves, which is, sure, that could be a form of entertainment, but I don't know if you're here to get entertainment or you're here to grow your business. And so if you're just watching us build this, that's just entertainment. You want to actually make sure that you are building this because that's what's actually going to help you. Okay. So here we're going to go ahead and test the workflow. We're going to select the contact. And in this case, I'm going to select, let's just say Dwayne Johnson. I'm going to go ahead and run this test. And I'm going to go ahead and go over to, you'll see right here, notification. It does say that the website contact form, this is right here, right now. So it does look like it is working, right? It is working right over here. However, this is kind of like a synthetic test. It's kind of like a fake test because this test workflow button, it's just forcing a test for this. So what I really want to do is I really want to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and launch our website. So I'm going to go to websites. I'm going to go over to right here. I'm going to go over to our website. I'm going to go ahead and preview our website real quick so I can grab the homepage link. I'm going to copy that homepage link. I'm then going to go ahead and close that tab out, go over to new incognito window, paste our homepage link right there. I'm going to hit get started. And then right here, we do have the main website contact form, right? So we have it right here. And then obviously in many places throughout the entire website, we've gone ahead and created that, right? So I'm going to go ahead and do free game plan session or get started. Doesn't really matter because it just opens the pop-up either way. And I'm going to go ahead and actually fill this out as if we are filling this out for somebody. Okay. So let's say, for example, let's say Tom Cruise. Okay. Let's say Tom Cruise came over to our website and Tom Cruise was like, hey, I want to get a game plan session with you guys. Okay, cool. So let's go ahead and put Tom Cruise's phone number on here. And this is going to be Tommy Cruise, okay? Tommy Cruise is his email address, okay? Apparently, I'm very good at guessing celebrities' email addresses, okay? Then we have agree to terms and conditions, complete and send. Okay. Now it's going to go ahead and do its thing. Okay. Now, whether or not you have this set up properly, that's up to you, because you probably don't want Tom Cruise to just land back on your website. That's a whole different training section where we talked about changing the redirect page for the actual contact form. I'm not going to go into that right now. So in this case, in this test account, I don't have it set up. So that's not what I care about for this training section, right? What I care about for this training section is to see, hey, did it actually send me the notification? And what I'm looking at right now is right over here. So it did not send me the notification. Oh, okay, interesting. So I'm going to run this as a test one more time and see. And I love it when things go wrong when we're actually live recording, because that actually lets me know that there's some sort of issue that we have in our actual setup. So let's go ahead and test this one more time, okay? So we're gonna go over here and we're gonna go ahead and go back over to our website. I'm gonna go ahead and click on Get Started. Now, this could be because this is a test website. It didn't 100% work fully, but let's go ahead and test this out, okay? So I'm gonna go back over here. We're gonna go Tom Cruise. And if I could spell Tom Cruise's name right, let's go over here. There we go. And again, you want to make sure that you are testing this yourself. So make sure that you pause this training and go out there and test this yourself. Tommy Cruise at gmail.com. Okay. Tommy Cruise at gmail.com. Complete and send. Let's see what it does here. Okay, it takes me back to the website. So something might be going on with the actual form, and it did not send me the notification. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to troubleshoot this, and I will be right back. All right, and we are back. So what happened there? And I'm so happy this happened inside of a training, so that way you can actually see, hey, how do you actually start to troubleshoot this? So the very first thing that I had to do, so you'll see it is working now, and I'll show you why it wasn't working earlier, because I do like for everything to make sense and add up so you can follow along here. So what ended up happening was, and just for the record here, okay, I'm going to go ahead and make this clear. I actually had to go ahead and reach out to the community, because I was like, what is going on here? Why isn't this working? And so this again proves our point that we say over and over again, is that, hey, there are no gurus on the mountains that have all the answers. In this case, I was like, I have no idea what's going on here. So I reached out to the community. I ended up finding someone to go ahead and help me with this, because they had already figured it out. And so what ended up happening, and it was actually their idea to test this. And so what ended up happening was that the actual form that was inside of the website, right? So I had to go into my website. And then from there, what we had to do was we had to come over here and edit the website. And then the form that was actually inside of the pop-up, even though it looked like it was the actual live form, it actually had to be updated. So I had to go over into pop-up settings. I had to then actually remove the form, okay? I then ended up having to, let me actually undo what I just did there. Let me see if I can undo. No, I cannot undo there. So let me just give me a second here. What I had to do was I had to add a form here. So I got to add the form back in. And then I got to add the main website contact form. And then what I had to do, let me just go ahead and move this up a hair. There we go. So that way your information is there. Okay. So I had to reintegrate the form onto the website. I had to hit save. And then I had to hit publish one more time. And then, so that was change number one. Okay. So that was change number one I had to do, was reintegrate the form on there. And then the other thing that I had to do was I had to go back into the actual workflow. And then if for some reason, if it's selected as all users, it wasn't working. So I have to actually go in and actually select a particular user and then select myself, or in this case, the John Doe account, from the actual selected users, okay? Then what I did was, once it was all published, I then went in and let me see if I can grab the link here for our site. Okay, so it shows me the preview site. I don't want the preview site. I want to go into our main site, right? So I have to go in and let me preview link. I have to go in and copy our link, and then check this out now, right? So I go over here, and now it's going to work, okay? So I go over here and I do the exact same thing we did earlier, but I just had to reintegrate the form, number one, and I had to change the workflow to be able to go to a particular user, okay? So again, I say this in every single training. This is the reason why making sure that your give to ask ratio is so good, because whenever you come to an issue in your business, and the reason why the community is so important is because if you're trying to get help, if you have been somebody who has been giving and giving and giving and giving and giving, when you ask, you're going to go ahead and be able to receive. But if all this time you haven't been building that goodwill, then when that time comes or you have an emergency, you have some sort of problem and you're looking for help, you're not going to be able to get that help, right? And so that is the reason why you want to make sure that your give to ask ratio is good. You understand like, hey, we are all helping each other. And so that is the reason why the mountain is a community mountain, not a guru mountain. Okay. So check this out. We're now going to come over here and I'm going to go ahead and type, let's do Oprah. Let's just do Oprah. Okay. Oprah. And I'm going to go ahead and do Oprah's number over here because of course, you know, I got all the contacts with all the people's, with all the celebrities. This is going to be oprahwinwin@gmail.com. Okay. Then check this out right here, complete and send. and then it should go ahead. There we go. That's what we were looking for. So in the previous one, because the form was not properly integrated, because it was an old form, even though it looked like the most up-to-date form, it was actually an old form that was integrated on there because we made a whole bunch of changes on the form. And so we had to go in and reintegrate the form. And now it is working here. And then check this out. If I go back over to our main tab over here, okay, now check this out. If I go over to contacts, you will see that Oprah is in here, Oprah win-win. And then we also will come over here to notifications, and you will see that we have in fact actually received that notification that Oprah has filled out the website contact form. And then if we also go back over to the workflow, and then we go over into enrollment history, we will see on here Oprah is in here, and execution logs will show us that Oprah is in here as well. Now, it will also show you that Tom Cruise is in here, which is a previous example that we were doing, but this actually right here is a random test that I was doing in the interim when we were not actually filming. Okay, so you can disregard this. The actual test that we did together was the Oprah test. So this is in fact working now. That's the reason why, ladies and gentlemen, you test. Always test. This is not some sort of entertainment that you just watch us and then you're like, oh, okay, cool. No. You have to make sure that you build this yourself and see if it actually works for yourself. This is not like, oh yeah, you take it for granted that it is in fact going to work when the time comes, because quite frankly, a lot of times, like you see in these trainings, sometimes it doesn't work out the way that you want it to. And so that is the ultimate skill of the entrepreneur, is the skill of resourcefulness and problem solving. Okay. And that's the other reason why the community is so important as well. So what's next? What's next is you're going to pause this training. You're going to go out there and build it and make sure you test it. And if you run into any issues, make sure you are going ahead and updating the community. And if you don't run into any issues, let's say it was spectacular for you, you want to update the community as well, right? So it's always about the community. Always come back to the community, because being able to have that pulse on where you are allows the community to know, hey, this is where so-and-so is. This is where so-and-so is. And so that way you are opening that channel and opening that door for the communication via the community. Make sure you go out there and get the repetition over and over again. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're not done yet. We still have other specific automations that we're going to go ahead and walk you through in the upcoming training sections. I'm telling you, your hard work, you going ahead and building the new skill set that is going to allow you to build the foundation of your work is going to pay off. It's all just a lesson that is learned every single time, right? So like this entire situation that just happened, it's a lesson that has now been learned that is in our skill bucket, right? And guess what? Yes, I had to go ahead and ask the community, get some help from the community, but that is the process of learning. Keep the momentum going, ladies and gentlemen. We will catch you in the next training section. All right, team, welcome to this training where we're going to be talking about understanding tags. Now, it's going to be very important to understand tags. And I know it's going to be like, wait a second. We're talking about automations. Why are we talking about tags all of a sudden? The reason is because in the next training section, we are going to help you and walk you through how to actually create automations. And part of those automations are actually going to go ahead and create tags. And so if you don't understand what tags are, well, how are you going to understand how to actually put them inside of the automation, right? So that's why we're going to go ahead and talk to you about understanding what tags are. So the very first question you have is like, hey, what is a tag? Well, let me show you. Let's say, for example, we go over to Brad Pitt. From Brad Pitt, I'm over here on the left side. I'm just going to go over here where it says tags. And I can go ahead and add a tag and say, you know what? Brad Pitt is going to be a lead. Or in this case, let's say, for example, I was going to say, you know what? Brad Pitt is a client. And now there is no such thing as a client tag, but guess what I can do? I can create a client tag. And then all of a sudden now, Brad Pitt has the tag of being a client. And if I go back, you will see that that client tag is showing up right over there, okay? And so that is what a tag is. You can kind of think of contact tags as kind of labels that you can put on top of contacts inside of your business platform, and they allow you to be able to categorize based off of specific criteria. So let me give you an example of what we talk about when you say specific criteria. Let's say, for example, you have two people and both of those people book a consultation call, but one of them becomes a client or a customer and the other one does not. Well, how do you know, and how are you going to remember? Let's say, for example, a few weeks later, a month goes by, or maybe even the same day, you're like, man, who was that person that actually became a customer? Who was that person that actually became a client? Well, you're not going to remember. Well, guess what? You're going to need a tag for that. So that way you can make sure that you are staying organized to know, hey, out of all of these different records and all of these different contacts that you have inside of your system, who's a lead, who's a client, who's a customer, who have I given this access to, who have I given that access to? All of that is organized via tags inside of your contact management system. And the reason why this is so important is because imagine having tens or hundreds or thousands of people in your CRM, which is as your business starts to grow, that's sometimes what's going to happen. We were at the point where we were actually getting 4,000 new contacts into our CRM every single month consistently. Well, it's impossible to remember, and hey, who's what, where's what, all of that, right? Now, there are a bunch of other benefits to tags as well in terms of better search results, sales, customer experience, better follow-up, increased conversion. You got to be able to go ahead and get your sales and marketing targeted. So we're going to use a lot of tags when it comes to being able to talk about the sales and marketing course that we walk you through later on, improve communication, as well as increased efficiency. So it allows you also then to be able to send personalized messages to specific types of contacts inside of your CRM. It also allows you to be able to organize and segment your list based off of what type of contact it actually is. So there's a lot of benefits to tags, and the reason why tags are going to be so important for you to understand. So let's go ahead and talk about tag management inside of your business platform ClientKit and talk about some of the different ways that you can actually go ahead and add tags to a specific contact. So this is going to be pretty quick because at this point you should be pretty familiar with the inside of the business platform. We're just going to show you some more nooks and crannies of it. So the first way is going to be via the contact tab. Now this is going to be the manual tagging process. So let's say, for example, I was like, you know what, Brad Pitt, Will Smith, and Taylor Swift, all three of these are actually going to be clients. So I can actually come over here and there is a button right over there that says add a tag. And from there, I can go ahead and click on add tag. And I can say, you know what, all three of these are actually going to be leads. Let's just say right now, right? And so I'm going to say here, yeah, and when you do a bulk action over here, whenever you do it through the contact page, you actually do end up having to put a description. So this is going to be added lead tag to contacts, right? And then I click on add, and then boom, just like that, what it is going to do, if I go ahead and refresh now, what you are going to see is that here on the right side, it is in fact going to go ahead and add the lead tag to those three contacts right over there, right? So that is one way that you can go ahead and do it, is via the contact tab. The other way that you can go ahead and do this is actually going to be via the contact page, the way that we went ahead and showed you earlier, right? So if I go ahead and scroll down over here and go over to, let's just say, Dwayne Johnson, we haven't interacted with him in a while. So if I go down over here, and you'll see that we have the left side, the left panel here, I do have hide empty fields. I do have these collapsed so that way it's easy for me to be able to go in and see this. I can scroll down over here to tags. I can go ahead and add a tag right over here and go over to lead. Boom, just like that, I've gone ahead and now added this over to Dwayne Johnson. So that way he gets that tag right over there. Okay, so that's going to be another method right over there. The other way is going to be through the conversations tab as well. So if I go over to conversations, I go over to all, you're going to be able to see that I do have all of these different contacts I'm in conversations with. If I do go over to Adam Jacob over here, you'll see that it does allow me to go ahead and add a tag over to Adam Jacob as well via the conversation tab. So that's going to be another way that you can actually do that also. Now, this is actually going to be very important. Settings to tags. This is also very important to make sure that you understand how to manage these tags, because if I go over to settings at the bottom left, okay, so settings, and then I scroll down and I find tags here inside of settings, scroll down, right over here is going to be tags. So this is where you can actually come, and this is the only place that you can actually delete tags, okay? So if I come over here, it'll show me all of the different tags that are inside of the system, and here I can actually come and say, you know what, client and student are kind of the same thing. I like to use the word client, so I'm just going to go ahead and delete the student tag. So I can come over here and just delete it. And if I do that, you'll see that one tag will be removed from all contacts, triggers, and campaigns. Are you sure you want to go ahead and delete this? So I could go ahead and do that there. And then I also could go ahead and edit it, and I could edit the name of the tag there as well. Okay, so in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and let's just say hypothetically, I'm going to go ahead and delete this one. So this is where I can go ahead and manage tags. And then of course I can go ahead and add a new tag here as well, but there's many places inside of the actual system that you can add tags like we showed you earlier via the contact page and the conversation. There's many places that you can add tags very easily, but that's just one way that we wanted to go ahead and show you there, okay? Now the other cool thing that once you have tags set up, you can actually go over to contacts, and then you can actually start to filter based off of tags as well. So you can say, cool, show me all of the people who are going to be, and then, you know, have XYZ tag. You can go ahead and do that as well. Now, the other way that you can actually add tags, because all the ways that we've been showing you thus far are actually manual, the other way that you can actually do this is via automatic, via triggers as well, right? And this is exactly what we're going to go ahead and show you when we go ahead and walk you through some of the automation. So if I go to automation, and let's just say we go over to, hypothetically, let's go over to the Brad Pitt workflow that we've been kind of testing and demoing here, right? So I can actually go ahead and add an action. If I show you this, if I go ahead and zoom in, you'll see if I can go ahead and action right here and put tag, I can actually add a contact tag and say, you know what, once somebody books this appointment, I want to go ahead and add a tag, and I want that tag to be, let's just say, appointment booked, right? And I can just create a new tag right here, and boom, just like that, I can click save. And so now whenever anybody goes through this workflow automation, they're going to go ahead and get this tag. And then also there's another one where you can actually remove tags from people based off of different automations as well. Now, I would recommend that you don't go crazy and just create tags left and right, because here's the thing, the more tags you create, the harder it is to actually organize them, because you have just 100 different tags. So we are going to be walking you through some of the recommended tags. In fact, what we are going to do is inside of your ClientKit account, we're going to go ahead and have the ClientKit team go ahead and build some of that for you based off of our recommendations. So that way you don't have to mess around with this too much. But again, we're just empowering you and educating you to understand exactly what tags are and how they actually work in the system. Now, the question you might have is like, hey, is this all of the different methods on how tags can actually be used, right? No, there's a lot of other different methods as well, but we just wanted to walk you some of the big ones. And so that way you understand each method has a different use case. These are the ABCs, the Lego building blocks, like we always say, that are going to allow you to be extremely familiar. And so that way you can do really advanced stuff because you understand the ABCs and the basics, okay? And then on top of that, as soon as we make this training, right now, I'm telling you, as soon as we've launched this training has now become out of date. Why? Because business is always changing, the softwares are always evolving, the apps are always changing. And so that's the reason why these trainings are only built so that way we can just help the new people get up to speed a little bit faster, so that way they have some of the basics. But all of the most cutting edge resources in terms of what's working, what's not working, all of that, of course, will be inside of the community as we help all of each other get up the mountain, because there is no guru on the mountain that has all the answers. In fact, everything that we have learned throughout our entire process is just through the community, experimenting, tinkering, sharing in the community, learning from other community members. This is exactly how learning works. And this is the way that you need to actually make the shift to understand, hey, it's not that I learned from courses. I learned from actually doing, and also the community and the peers that I'm interacting with on the journey of my learning. So I hope that makes sense in terms of how the latest is going to be inside of the community. Beautiful. With that being said, make sure that you do go ahead and pause this training and take action and actually test out some of the different ways that tags can actually be managed inside of the ClientKit system. Make sure you actually do that, okay? Don't be one of those failure uniform students who does not actually take the time to do the repetition that's going to be required in order for you to be successful. What's next is that, guess what? Tags are not only related to workflows and automation. So tags can actually be used even without workflows and automations. But now that you understand tags, what we're now going to do is we're going to show you how specific automations and workflows can actually be used with tags. And we're going to actually help you build them out. So you see, it's not just random that we decided to go ahead and teach you about tags. We wanted to make sure that this was practical. There is a method to the madness. And that's exactly what we're going ahead and sharing with you right now. So we're not done yet. We want to go ahead and make sure that you are continuing with the training to walk you through step by step by step as you take action. Remember, every training, pause, take action, tinker, click around, come back to the training, continue, and go through the entire process as you go through this. Remember, the only limit to our realization of tomorrow is the doubts that we have today. I know right now we might have a lot of insecurity, a lot of doubts. Hey, is this going to work? How is this going to work out together? But the thing is, you got to make sure that you're taking that consistent action. Keep on going. You're doing fantastic. This has been the training section on understanding tags. We will catch you in the next training section. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is going to be the training section on calendar reminder automation. So again, before we actually already went ahead and walked you through how to build a specific type of automation, this is going to be another type of automation that we're going to go ahead and help you build. And this automation type is the calendar reminders automation type. So let's go ahead and explain exactly what the calendar reminders automation type is. So already we talked about, hey, notification automations, right? But this one is going to be a little bit different. These automations and the series of automations that we're going to walk you through is going to be when somebody books an appointment on your calendar, they're going to get reminders, right? SMS, email, all these types of different reminders, right? And so it's going to be key to make sure that you have these, because what we have found is that when you don't have these reminders and you don't have them in the sequence that we're going to go ahead and provide to you, then what happens is that people do not actually show up to their appointments. And so it's going to be key and critical to make sure that when you have these set up, or once you have these set up, that's what's going to allow you to get people to actually show up to their appointment. That's why it's so absolutely critical in business to make sure that you have these, okay? And then also by completing this step, you also have a fully functioning and ready to start scheduling appointments as well. Now, just a quick heads up, what we are going to primarily focus on in the next couple training sections are really the foundational primary automations for calendar reminders that you are going to need. We're not going to go ahead and build out 100,000 of these different types, okay? Because there's literally unlimited types of automations. We're going to primarily focus on, hey, what are the ones that you're going to need immediately? So you don't want to get overwhelmed by this. And then the beautiful thing is that if you're keeping your membership status active with the Institute, you will have not only access to the trainings, but primarily and more importantly, access to the community in which all of the latest automations, all the new ones, all the stuff that's going to be more advanced is going to be housed in there. So that way, as community members go ahead and continue to build those, you have access to those as well. Beautiful. Now, before we close out this training, I do want to go ahead and explain to you as well, hey, am I going to have to build this myself? Ladies and gentlemen, I think you already know the answer to this question, but here's actually the more important and cool thing. Specifically when it comes to calendar reminder automations, they can get sometimes quite complex because there's a lot of text that you need to create. And so guess what we're going to do for these specific calendar reminder automations, because they are a little bit more complex. We didn't want to lose anybody throughout this process. So we've gone ahead and already built these out for you. And now literally copy and paste directly into your ClientKit account. You're already going to see them in there, so that way you do not have to go out and build them from scratch. The over delivery promise, the amount of value that you thought you'd get compared to the amount of value that you actually got. Holy over delivery, Batman. This is amazing, okay? And so this is going to be one of the amazing perks that you have as a part of being a part of this program, is going to be being able to go ahead and have these already built inside of your business platform. Of course, as this selection of automations continues to grow and we start to see, hey, different people built different tools and automations inside of the community, we're going to be able to go ahead and copy and paste those directly into your ClientKit account, so long as you keep your membership status active with the Institute. Ladies and gentlemen, what's going to happen next is that right after this training, we are going to go ahead and directly jump into the exact step-by-step for the specific calendar reminder automation. So that's going to happen right after this. And so you want to make sure that you are taking the steps, you are taking the action that's going to allow you to go ahead and build and follow along with those trainings. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to go ahead and give you a really beautiful quote here. You're navigating this path with grace and strength. I know it's not easy to have to go through trainings. It's not easy to go ahead and build the foundations, but I promise you, you're building the foundations brick by brick that's going to allow you to build a very solid and foundational business for yourself and for your family going forward. So keep advancing, keep on going. Your goals are in sight. Right after this, we're going to go ahead and cut over now into the exact specific training sections for the specific calendar reminder. So we're going to go ahead and catch you in the next training section. All right, welcome to the consultation call automation training section. So inside of this training section, we're going to go ahead and walk you through probably one of the most, if not the most important workflows inside of your business, which is going to be the consultation call automation. So this one, up until now, we've only been helping you set up automations that are maybe, one step, maybe two steps, right? But this one is going to be the first one that's going to have quite a lot of steps. It's going to have a lot of moving parts. We are going to go ahead and walk you through this step by step. Now, because this is a little bit more of a complicated one, this is going to be one that we actually copy and paste as a gift from us directly into your account. And all you are going to have to do is just follow along and literally just make a couple changes. Okay. So again, that's part of the over delivery promise. You're going to find this inside of your account, and I'll show you exactly where it's going to be. Now, before we actually dive into it though, I do want to go ahead and explain, because you're actually going to see inside of your account, there are going to be two different automations that we have already built for you and then had the ClientKit team put them inside of your account. Okay. So let me walk you through what those are going to look like. If I go over here to automation and then I come over here, you will see that there are two right over here, right? So we have the RWI template, and there's a consultation call reminder, and this one says email and SMS. And then the other one says consultation call reminders, email only. Now, this is very important, so listen up, because I'm going to go ahead and explain what the difference between these two is going to be, okay? So up until now, some of you may have your phone number and your registration already approved from the A2P 10 DLC, right? So we've already talked about the A2P 10 DLC. We've talked about how that does exist inside of settings. If I go ahead and open up settings with another tab, of course, at this point, you are probably familiar with this if you've made it this far. If you're not, make sure you go check out that training where we talk about phone numbers, and then you have your Trust Center, right? So the Trust Center is where your A2P 10 DLC registration is going through. If yours is incomplete, or if it has failed, then you are not going to yet be able to go ahead and set up the automation that is for the email and the SMS, okay? So that is not going to be something that you can do. If your A2P 10 DLC registration has not been approved yet, then that way you are not going to be able to go ahead and send out text messages, okay? So for you, if you don't have your phone number registered fully yet, you're going to be using the email only one, okay? Now, if you have your A2P 10 DLC approved, then you are going to be using the email and the SMS one, okay? And you are not going to use the email one. So you're only going to pick one of them, okay? Depending on which one is going to be in your situation. I'm going to walk you through how to be able to edit both of them. So you have both of them ready, but you're only going to publish the workflow, right? So you see over here, both of these are in draft right now. You're only going to publish the one that you can actually use. So if right now you can only use the email one, that is going to be the one that you go ahead and use. If you do have your A2P registered, you can then go ahead and use the email and the SMS one. So the email one is automatically included in the email and SMS, plus it also has SMS automations built up in there as well. Does that make sense? I hope that is absolutely clear. Of course, if you have questions on this, make sure you do go ahead and ask in the community as well. However, I hope that is absolutely clear right now. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. I'm going to go ahead and walk you through first the email and SMS one, because that's a little bit more complex. And then we can go ahead and walk you through the email only one. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about the consultation call automations, email and SMS workflow. So what we're going to go ahead and do is you are going to go ahead and go into your automation workflows. We're going to go ahead and enter into and edit this specific workflow, edit workflow. And so you should see these two in your account. If you do not, then you want to make sure that you go ahead and reach out via the community or reach out to us. So that way we can make sure that the ClientKit team goes ahead and copies and pastes these from our account and puts them into your account. So that way you have them. So let's go ahead and go into the email and the SMS. We're going to edit workflow right over there. Now, once we actually go ahead and edit the workflow, what we are going to do is a couple of things. First and foremost, I'm going to go ahead and remove this RWI template, because of course now it's gone ahead and been inputted into my account. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the RWI template right there. The next thing I'm going to go ahead and do, and again, all these steps that I have are outlined inside of the guide as well. So you see on here, it says rename, boom. Okay, cool. Let's go ahead and proceed with all these steps that I'm following along with on the guide. Okay, so we're going to go to settings. I'm going to make sure that allow re-entry is turned on. That's going to be very important. I'm also then going to go ahead and scroll down, and right over here where it says the sender details, I am going to go ahead and put in the from name. I'm going to put in the name of the business. Okay, so this is going to be, in our case, let's just say Body Forge Fitness, or sometimes we use the example of NutriFit Wellness. Either, whatever the name of your business is going to be, that's going to be what goes there. Over here, this is very important. Now listen to this. We have a custom value here that's going to go ahead and enter in the location email. So the location email is going to be, when you go over here into settings, business profile, typically the location email is going to be the one that is here under business email. However, sometimes I'm not exactly sure. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go ahead and manually enter it in here. I'm not going to actually rely on the custom value. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and enter in support at, I think it's nutrifitwellness.com is the email that we have. So then this is obviously for me, I should use the other example. So NutriFit Wellness. Now, this is very, very important. You need to make sure that you are going to be using your domain email. Do not use an @gmail.com email right over here. The reason is because this is going to be the email that is sending out all of the emails. And we've talked about this in a previous training section where we said that business emails cannot be sent from an @Gmail. Okay, so that's the reason why we had an entire training on how to go ahead and get your business sending set up. Okay, so we had that training for a specific purpose because this needs to be your domain email. Very, very, very important. Okay, so let's go ahead and check and make sure that we are good to go on the guide. We've gone ahead and put the name of the business. We've gone ahead and put the support email as well. Beautiful. Next up, we're going to go ahead and click on Mark Save. Okay, and then I'm going to go back over here to the builder. And now it's time to go ahead and start looking at the actual trigger. So one thing you'll notice, look at how many different automations are already built in here, right? I'm going to walk you through all of these step by step so you understand them, but I just want to walk you through. This is the reason why we're copying and pasting this into your account. This is the reason why you're a part of this program, so that way you're getting the system and the strategy. Because imagine if you had to go in there and actually build all of this for yourself. It would be quite a lot of work, right? And then obviously you'd have to figure out how do you actually go ahead and create the text of all these emails, and how do you set all this up. That's the reason why we wanted to make sure that you are a part of this community and get access to this. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about the trigger. The trigger is already created for you. All you need to do is you just need to go ahead and hook it up to your exact consultation calendar. So what you're going to do is you're going to click on add filters. You're going to go ahead and put inside calendar. And then you're going to go ahead and select your consultation calendar. Okay, so in this case, I'm going to just put, let's say, the one-on-one calendar over here. Okay, so in a different training section, we helped you build your consultation call calendar. Whatever that consultation call calendar is, that is the calendar that you're going to go ahead and put right over here. Okay, now another thing I want to go, and I'm going to go ahead and click on save trigger. Another thing I want to go ahead and teach you here real quick, and this is in the guide as well, explain the difference between customer booked versus appointment status is. So right over here, this is the appointment status trigger. There is another trigger over here that can sometimes be confusing that is called booked appointment. Okay, so let me go ahead and type appointment here so you can see. If I type appointment right here, you'll see that there are two triggers that are for appointments. There is the appointment status trigger, and then there is the customer booked appointment trigger. Okay, now the one that we are using right over here is the appointment status trigger. Why are we using this one, and why are we not using the customer booked appointment? Let me go ahead and explain that very quickly to you. So the customer booked appointment actually only fires when the customer books the appointment. And so this one does not include if you manually book the appointment for the actual customer, right? And so what ends up happening here is that the customer booked, let's say, for example, you got Jason. Okay, Jason is your client, and Jason booked on the calendar. Okay, he booked on the calendar. When Jason books on the calendar, this trigger would fire. But let's say, for example, you booked for Jason manually on the calendar, this appointment would not fire. And so that's the reason why this customer book, right? It's when the customer books the appointment. It's not when anybody books the appointment. That's the reason why this trigger right here is sometimes limiting. And what we end up doing is we actually end up just using the appointment status, because the appointment status one includes, it doesn't matter who booked the appointment, when the appointment is booked, no matter who booked it, if the appointment status is confirmed, which is what's shown up here, right? So if I go back and click over here, you'll see the event type is normal, appointment status is confirmed. Confirmed meaning that typically we have a setting in the calendar that automatically confirms it. We walked you through that once we actually helped you set it up. So it doesn't matter if Jason books it. It doesn't matter if I book it manually for Jason. It doesn't matter who booked the appointment. The point is that the appointment was booked. And then when the appointment is booked, we're telling it to go ahead and fire the rest of these. Does that make sense? And so that's why I know sometimes even for us, it was confusing. And again, the Client Kit provides the tool, but then actually learning the system and the strategy and actually like playing around with it and figuring out how it actually works. And then our job is to go ahead and educate you on, hey, yes, the tool is there, but you need the strategy in order to be able to actually pull off. And that's why our recommendation is that 9 times out of 10, unless you have a specific use case for customer booked appointment, we are going to be using the appointment status trigger over here. Okay, beautiful. Now, next up, the first action that we have on here is to add a tag. And this tag says consultation scheduled. Okay, that is the tag that is put on here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is in my other tab over here, I'm going to go over here to settings. And what you want to do is you want to confirm, you're going to scroll down and you're going to go inside of your Client Kit settings over to tags. And what you want to do is you do just want to confirm that you do in fact have a tag that is consultation scheduled, right? So right over here, you'll see that we have consultation scheduled. Now, you might not have all of these other ones, right? Because this is kind of a demo account, so we got a whole bunch of them on here. But the point is right now, you do at least want to make sure that you have this consultation scheduled one here, because that is going to be the one that we actually use inside. And I believe the way that we were having it set up and the way we told the Client Kit team is that when we went ahead and put this workflow into your account, it should have automatically created the tag as well. So again, a gift to us is the, basically almost a done for you build out here. And so that should already be in your account, but you just want to go ahead and confirm in case there was a glitch or a bug or anything like that. So that is going to be the first action once somebody actually books an appointment. It's going to go ahead and add to their contact record consultation scheduled. Okay, beautiful. Then what it's going to do is it's going to go ahead and send them this first message, which is going to be an SMS message. Okay, and this SMS message is going to go ahead and say the following. Okay, so it's going to say contact's first name. So it's going to say, hey, Jason, and then it's going to go ahead and pull the calendar's name. Now, if you remember, what is the calendar that this is all booked on? This is on my one-on-one consult NutriFit Wellness, right? So whatever calendar name that is, it is going to go ahead and pull that in right there. So your one-on-one consult NutriFit whatever is scheduled with coach, and it's going to go ahead and pull the user's first name, okay? Now, this right here, these are all, what we did is we tried to make this as evergreen as possible so it could apply to as many people as possible, okay? Now, what you're going to do, and when you get to the testing section, we're going to test this out. And if some of these custom values are not working for you, maybe your username is not set properly or you want to use a different username, whatever, then you can come in here and you can actually manually override this and say, okay, this is scheduled with Coach John. And then that way you don't have to rely on the custom value in case the custom value is not being exact, right? So let's say, for example, you want it to be a little bit more like specific. So you can just put and you don't want the one-on-one consult, whatever, you could just straight up type in here consultation call. Okay. So again, I want to make this clear. Even though we are giving you the assets and we're doing our best to make this as done for you as possible, we've said this in many other trainings. For you as a business owner, you do not want to be remote control, spoon-fed, not innovating, not thinking, because your number one skill as an entrepreneur is problem solving and figuring things out, right? And so this is the reason why you don't want to just be like, oh yeah, this is what it was and it's broken, but I'm just going to run with it. No. You got to be able to, this is your business. We're getting you 80 to 90% of the way there. And now it's up to you to come in here and say, you know what, I want to change some of these things. Sure, it's up to you. Of course, test it, make sure it's not broken, all that kind of stuff. But this is going to be completely up to you if you want to tweak this, okay? Next up, we look forward to speaking with you on, and then we will go ahead and have the start date at start time. So to be, let's say, for example, and this is not something you can manually program in because obviously for every appointment, it is going to be different, right? So we have to use custom values here. And so it says it's going to start on and it's going to have the date. Let's say, for example, the date's going to be, February 5th or whatever, right? So February 5th at 3 p.m. And then it's also going to have the appointment time zone. Now, this is very important. The time zone is very important because let's say, for example, you book an appointment with somebody who is maybe in a different time zone. And this obviously applies for those who might be doing, virtual sales or online sales or those kinds of things, or meeting, maybe even virtual coaching sessions with people in different time zones. Of course, if you're in person in the same area and Jason is in the same, city as you, then the appointment time zone is not going to be as important. But again, this is a pro tip that we found because a long time ago, we never used to include time zone. And then when we were working with people in different time zones, they would ask us like, hey, what time zone is this in? And so that has been extremely beneficial. So there's appointment time zone, and then there's also a custom value for contact time zone. So if I go over here and I go into contact, there's also right over, there should be time zone right here, right? So it says there's appointment time zone and then there's contact time zone. Those are two different things that mean two different things in the system. Okay. So again, as you play around with this, I just want to empower you and educate you in terms of knowing where everything is. So that way, if you're like, you know what? Appointment time zone is coming out incorrect, I might have to change it to contact time zone. You know how to be able to do it. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and remove it, but I'm just showing you what that looks like. Okay. Then over here, you'll be getting reminders for your appointment. If you need to reschedule, let us know. And then it's going to go ahead and say location name and then support team, right? So the location name is going to be whatever is over here. If I go to business profile and then it has a friendly business name, that is going to be, in this case, NutraFit Wellness. So it's automatically going to put the location name right over there, okay? And then I'm going to go ahead and click on Save Action. So that is the SMS text message. Again, if you do not have A2P10DLC, then you're not going to be setting this one up, but pay attention regardless, because in the other workflow, we only have the emails, and then you can go ahead and set that one up there, okay? Now, here we go. We have is the emails. What you are going to have to do is you're going to come over here and you're going to check this, okay? So you have contact name. This is going to be, let's say, for example, Justin, right? Justin. Calendar name. So this is going to be the calendar name over here, like we talked about earlier. And then we have the exact same thing here. So it's going to say, hi, Justin, your one-on-one consult NutraFit Wellness, right? If you want to go ahead and override that, like we showed you earlier, you can go ahead and override that with username, first name, right? So it'd be, in this case, John. But again, when you test it out, you can see, hey, maybe it didn't go John. So then I might have to come in here and put, hey, Coach John, right over here. And so again, this is the reason why maybe this might not work 100% for you out of the box, but it's 80 to 90% of the way there. And this is also the other reason why the community is so important, is because if you run into issues, you're going to need, hey, I tried to set this up, or hey, this did work for me, and you can go ahead and help some other people in the community as well. Okay, so right over here, this is what that looks like. If you need to reschedule your appointment, all of this stuff, and then appointment reschedule link is here as well. Now, other thing I want to go ahead and say about emails is that the reason why we do not have to put a from name and a from email here is because of the fact that, do you remember we did this on the global level? So let me show you. Remember we went over to settings, and then right over here, the sender details. And so this is actually the default. And so that actually helps us not have to do it individually for all of the emails, because it's going to automatically pull in the settings from what we put over there. Okay, so that's the cool thing about that. Now, next up, the next action that we have programmed here is actually a wait action. So the wait action is going to wait 3 days before the appointment. So let me go ahead and show you what the wait action looks like. I'm going to go ahead and add another wait here just so I can show you what a blank wait would look like. All right. So I go wait. And then right over here, it allows me to say, okay, do you want to wait for a specific time? So let's say, for example, I wanted it to wait, 48 hours after the previous message. But in this case, I don't want to wait 48 hours after the previous message because I don't know when their appointment is, right? So what I do instead is I'm going to wait for a appointment type, and I'm going to do, hey, you know what? I want to do 3 days before the appointment. And then also there's a setting here that says if the timing of this wait step is already in the past, how should the contact proceed? And then obviously from there, you can have some actions there, right? So the point is that this wait time is extremely beneficial whenever you're wanting to go ahead and do something when it comes to workflows and you want it to actually take a pause, right? So let me go ahead and show you this right here again. So 3 days before. And so right over here, we have 3 days before the appointment. And because everybody's appointment is going to be different, right? Some people are going to book on Wednesday, some people are going to book on a Thursday. So we don't want to have it be waiting for a specific time. We want it to be based off of when the appointment is going to be, right? So 3 days before. Then 3 days before, it's going to send them this text message. Now, here's the thing. These workflows are extremely smart. And so they know that if the appointment, let's say, for example, today is Monday and the person's appointment is on Tuesday, then because there is no 3 days before, right? Because 3 days before, this would have been Monday, Sunday, this would have been like Saturday, right? So the workflow knows that, hey, today's Monday. We can't send a Saturday, text message. That doesn't make any sense. And so what it's going to do is it's going to skip this completely because it knows that it's not 3 days before. That's the little setting that I showed you earlier when it said, hey, if the timing is already in the past, what should it do? Skip all outbound communication actions until the next wait time, right? So that's exactly what we set it to do. Again, I know this is a little bit more complex. I know this one is a little bit more intense. This is the reason why we've already pretty much built it for you. All I'm doing is I'm explaining it to you, but it shouldn't take you this long to set up because you'll see that it's actually very, very quick, but it's the explanation that's taking a while, right? Then after that, we then have a text message here. This text message is a 72-hour text message right over here. So you'll see, hey, your appointment is in 72 hours. Then we have another wait time, and this one is 2 days before. And then we have our 48-hour email. So you'll see here, hey, calendar name is coming up in 48 hours. And then obviously that is all there. You can come in here and change these custom values if necessary, but most of these are already built out for you, okay? Then after that, we got 1 day before. So this is gonna be 1 day before their appointment. What do we want it to do? It's gonna go ahead and send out a 24-hour SMS text message. So auto reminder, hey, Justin, your appointment is tomorrow, right? So the tomorrow is there is very important. And it's going to tell them, hey, at exactly what time and time zone their appointment is. Then we have an email, which is a 24-hour email that says your appointment is tomorrow. And then again, we've already built all of this stuff out for you. You can just go in there and check it. After that, we then have a wait that is 3 hours before their appointment. It then goes ahead and sends them a 3-hour text message. Very, very important. Now, again, I didn't say this earlier, but these reminders are so critical to be able to customize and have very specific timers. This is the exact formula that we have found in terms of 72 hours before, 24 hours before, 2 days before, 3 hours before, 1 hour before, and then 10 minutes before. This is the exact cadence of scheduling. This is a strategy that we have found that gets people to show up 50 to 60% more than they would have otherwise without these specific reminders. So that's going to be the 3 hour before one. Then from there, we have a 1 hour before, again, wait time. And then from the wait time, you then have a 1 hour before email. So again, reminder, your appointment is in 1 hour. Then we have a 1 hour before text message. Hey, just a friendly reminder for your call in about an hour. Are you still good to go? So this is going to be something that's trying to get them to kind of like reply. So that way they're more likely to be able to show up there as well. And then we have a 10-minute before here. See you in a few. If you need help, shoot me a call at. Now, this is where there is one change that you got to make, okay? So right over here, you do want to go in and enter in your cell phone number. So that way, if let's say, for example, the person can't find the Zoom link, if you're doing Zoom strategy calls, if they can't get in contact with you, they can somehow find an immediate text message. So that way, 10 minutes before the actual call, they do have some sort of confirmation around contact that they can go ahead and call you if they're having difficulty being able to, join the call or make the call or whatever it might be. Or sometimes if you're doing it in person, they might need to be driving around to find your location or find out where you are. So having that contact information is very helpful for them in the last couple minutes. So that way they can go ahead and if they need help, they can go ahead and reach out to you, okay? So if you really zoom out, this is going to be where you got to make some changes here, right? So if you really zoom out, the only kind of changes that you got to make on here, and let me go ahead and list these out for you, okay? So what we got to do is number one, the only change you got to do is under the settings tab, you got to go to settings and you got to just add your sender name, and email, okay? That's change number one. Change number two that you got to do is in the trigger, you have to go in and link calendar, okay? You got to link your consultation calendar, link your calendar, okay? And then change number three is to go to the last message, and you got to put your phone number, okay? Now, whether you decide to put your personal phone number or you decide to put your business phone number, your A2P phone number, that's up to you, whatever you decide to do. Of course, at this point, if you are going to be using the email and SMS, you are going to have your A2P registration dialed in, already approved. So you are going to be able to go ahead and actually add your business number there at the bottom, because if anybody calls your business number, if you have the forwarding and all that kind of stuff set up, it is going to actually ring on your phone. So that way you can go ahead and get confirmation from there, right? So literally this entire process, the explanation of it took me longer than what it's going to do in order for you to get set up, which is literally just go to settings, and then all you do is you just go ahead and change the sender and the email, trigger, link your calendar, and then the last message, change your phone number. That's it, okay? And then all we're going to do here is we're going to save, and we are going to go ahead and make sure that we hit publish as well, and then hit save once again. Now, once you hit publish on here, it is going to be live. However, I'm going to go ahead and maybe I shouldn't have hit publish here because I don't want to confuse any of you, okay? This publishing, you only publish. Let me make this very clear. You only publish. Man, I wish I could just get through the screen and just tell you directly, right? Please listen to me. I hate it when students just go ahead and they don't listen carefully and then they make a mistake like this, okay? Only do publish if you actually have your A2P registration approved. If you do not, then this is not going to be the workflow that you are going to use. You're going to use the other workflow, which I'm going to walk you through in just a second, in order to go ahead and only send out emails. So that way there are no SMS text messages. And then you can always come back and turn the email one off and turn this one on once your SMS text messages have been approved. So let me go ahead and give you an example. In this test account that I'm in right now, I'm going to turn this off because we do not have A2P actually registered right now. So that's the reason why I'm going to go ahead and turn this off for now. But I've gone ahead and walked you through all of the changes that you would need to make for this. Now let's go ahead and before we test this workflow, let me go ahead and actually go over here to the email only one. So the email only one is going to be the exact same workflow. The only difference is that there are no SMS text messages as steps. There's only emails in here, okay? And so what we do is we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to go to settings, make sure that allow re-entry is turned on. We are going to come over here to the sender details and then just go in and enter in your right over here, NutriFit Wellness or whatever your business name is going to be. Now you'll see that there was a custom value on here that manually enters in the location name. Once you get really good at using custom values, the really cool about custom values thing is that you never have to worry about entering in information manually because it automatically is going to pull in whatever your business name is, right? But in this case, because in the initial part of it, you might not be the best at using custom values or you might not be very familiar with them. That's the reason why we are going to just say, you know what? Go ahead and just manually enter it in so that way you don't have to worry about whether the custom value is correct or not. I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing over here. You're going to enter in exactly what your email is. So support@nutrifitwellness.com. Again, this has to make sure this is not your Gmail. This is going to be your business email. I am going to go ahead and hit save. Then over here, I am going to do the exact same thing. I do need to come over here to the trigger and I need to go ahead and link my calendar. So we're going to go to in calendar. This is going to be the one-on-one consultation NutriFit calendar. You probably just have a consultation calendar, not an issue, whatever the name of that is. Save the trigger. Now it is going to be important for you to read through all of these messages. Just make sure that everything is looking good the way that you want it to look. And then remember that last change, which is going to be the last one right at the end here, where it's going to say, hey, insert your cell phone number. This is going to be where you come over here and insert your business phone number. If you need your business phone number, you just go over to settings at the bottom left. And again, I have another tab here, right? So you can always right click, duplicate the tab, go over to another tab at the top, go down over to phone numbers, and then you can have your phone number there. I think in this account, we have 2 phone numbers. You might not have 2 phone numbers, whatever your phone number might actually be. That is the one that you can go ahead and pull over that you need it to be. So let's say, for example, it was going to be this one. This is I think my Florida number. And so right over here, I'm going to come and boom. Just like that, I've gone ahead and put in my phone number and then I hit save action and then I hit save. So just in case somebody needs to be able to find my location and in the last 10 minutes, they're having difficulty doing that, they have my contact information so they can go ahead and reach out. And again, this is going to be applicable for everybody, even if you don't have A2P. But if you have A2P registered, then you're going to use the other one. So in this case, I'm actually going to go ahead and turn this one on as a test because in this account, I do not have A2P registered, right? So A2P is incomplete and failed. So therefore, I am going to be using the email only one and I am not going to use, so the one that is the email and SMS one, I'm going to go ahead and leave that into draft, okay? Now, the other thing that I forgot to do over here is you'll see RWI template. I don't like that it says RWI template there, so I am going to come over here and just rename this. So that way, that is going to be all nice and dandy. Hit save. Make sure you hit save there. Go back to workflows. And then you will see that there is the SMS and email one. That's in draft. I'm not going to use that one. And then I do have the email only one. And that's the one that is published right now. Now, again, all of these instructions that we've gone ahead and walked through are located inside of the guide as well as a written format. So that way, both the instructions for the email and SMS as well as the email only one, all of those instructions are located inside of the guide. So that way, if you need them, they are there. But the last thing we want to do, this is very important, is we are going to go ahead and test this. So what you want to do is you want to add yourself as a contact inside of your own contact management system, and you want to test this. And you want to test this in a couple different ways. So you can test this first and foremost. If I go over to calendars, I'm going to go ahead and this is the calendar that we set all of this up for. So I'm going to go ahead and actually share. I'm going to go ahead and it doesn't matter if I use a schedule link or permanent link. I'm going to use a permanent link, open this up in incognito. I'm going to paste right over here. And who is the famous celebrity? You guys know I love to do some famous celebrities here that are booking appointments with us. Let's use for this one, let's use Kevin Hart, okay? Kevin Hart is going to be looking to book an appointment with us, okay? And Kevin Hart's phone number, it's a very well-known fact that this is his exact phone number. Okay, so that's his phone number. This is going to be Kevin Hardy Hart, okay? Kevin Hardy Hart. Okay, Hardy is at gmail.com, right over here at gmail.com. I confirm, awesome. Then we're going to schedule the meeting. Now, I don't think that email is going to go through because I don't think that is his actual email. But what we're going to do is we're going to schedule the meeting, and I think it's verifying the information here. Okay, cool. So the meeting has been scheduled. Now, what we're going to do, I'm going to go back over to our other screen. I'm going to go back. I'm going to go to contacts. And there we go. Kevin Hardy Hart right over here. Look at that. Kevin Hart is inside of the system. And then I'm going to go down and you'll see, oh, look at this. Test workflow. Your appointment is scheduled on. Hi, Kevin. Your appointment is scheduled on. and this one right over here. Hi, Kevin. This is the appointment right over here. Now, in this case, and I love it when things go wrong in the trainings, is because you'll see that Kevin actually got 2 emails from us. The reason he got 2 emails from us, and I can just confirm because I can go here to workflows, and you'll see that he is in 2 workflows. So I actually have a Brad Pitt workflow that is actually turned on. That was a test one. And it looks like Kevin got sent that email as well. No bueno. So I got to go in just a second and turn that one off. So again, this is how we problem solve. I'm kind of walking you through the problem solving methodology, that this is the reason why you test. Because if I hadn't tested, right, I'm like, okay, cool, it's set up, it's going to work properly. Well, guess what? You see, it didn't work properly. So right now, it looks like he is inside of the email only campaign, which is beautiful, right? And you can always check all of this inside of the actual contact record. So what we need to do is I need to go over to, let me open up in a new tab right here so I can leave. I don't want to leave this Kevin Hart contact page, right? So I'm going to right click, open link in a new tab, open up the new tab. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go ahead and turn off. So it looks like we had this old Brad Pitt workflow, right? So if I go ahead and click on total enrolled, it'll show me that, oh, look, Kevin Hart got enrolled into this workflow. And I didn't want him to get enrolled in this workflow, right? So what is this one here? Appointment status. Oh, you see? And then this one was an email that said test workflow from training. So see, that's no good. So I got to turn this one off, save. And then in the future, right over here, and again, this is the reason why we test. So this one is turned off. And then if I look right now and I go into the email only one, you will see that we have right over here, which is the email only one. Let me see right over here. You'll see that we have that person right there. If I click on it, it'll show me that Kevin Hart right now is on this step right here because it looks like his appointment is coming up in just about an hour. And if I go over to enrollment history, you'll see that Kevin Hart is enrolled right here currently. And this is really cool. It shows me that what step he is on currently. He's on the step that is 1 hour before. He's waiting for the time, and the next execution of that is going to happen on this specific day, which is going to be 1 hour before his appointment. And again, the reason why it went ahead and skipped to the 1 hour before is because if we look at the contact detail here, you will see that his appointment is on March 1st, and then it's at 9 a.m. And right now, what I'm looking at the calendar right now, this is the day before March 1st, and it's currently like 11 a.m. So the reason why it skipped over to the 1 hour is because the system recognized that it can't send the 72-hour before, it can't send the 48-hour before, it can't send the 24-hour before because it's already past 9 a.m. the day before March 1st. And so it has to only send the 1 hour before, right? So obviously it's very rare that somebody's gonna be booking immediately like that, but this was just an example that I wanted you to walk through. And obviously we have the enrollment history, we have the execution logs, everything is showing us exactly what happened here. So Kevin Hart, he got added to the workflow. It went ahead and sent him a confirmation email immediately, right? So it did go ahead and send him that confirmation email. It does show us the details over here in terms of what happened there. And then it also shows us the execution history as well as the contact history. Now, in this case, who knew? Because I think that these emails are not going through because I believe Kevin Hardy Hart is not an actual email. So no actual email exists. And so therefore it is now not going to send out emails to Kevin Hart via this process, right? But you can actually see that he would have received this exact email. So what you want to do is you want to come in here and you want to confirm this and you want to say, hey, your NutriFit Wellness Consult is all confirmed. We will be meeting you at. And then right over here, you see this is where there is an issue here as well. Again, we're troubleshooting. So this is live troubleshooting right here. So we're going to look forward to speaking with you. We will meet you at, and then it just says dot. That's no good. So let's go ahead and see what happened there. Let me go back to the workflow. So this is the email only workflow. Then we go over to the email upon booking. And then it says, we will meet with you at appointment meeting location. So you see here, the appointment meeting location, there was no appointment meeting location that was set. And so that might be the reason why this custom value is not looking good. So therefore, what we'll have to do is we'll have to decide, what kind of consultation are you going to be doing? Are you going to be doing an in-person consultation, a Zoom consultation, a phone call consultation? And all of that is going to be important because you're going to then have to go into the settings and then you have to go into the calendar. And then for this calendar, you're going to have to figure out like, hey, what is going to be the actual location for this, right? So you see over here, if I scroll down, it says meeting location. Right now it's blank. And so that's why the custom value couldn't actually pull that in. And so these are all questions that you're going to have to decide on your own in terms of what that looks like and then actually change that there. So again, this is where we're getting you 80 to 90% of the way there, but then you got to figure out, okay, I now have this tool. They've done the over delivery promise. They've got me this asset. They've built this out for me. Now I got to be able to take it and actually use it for my business. And if you're not sure, and if you're kind of confused, well, guess what? This is why the community is there. This is why we say there is no guru on the mountain. This is why we say, hey, even we are just learning. We are just figuring it out. And all we do whenever there's an issue, just go ask the community. And so this is the reason why, hey, if you figured it out, Go help others. And you got to get that goodwill bank account up, right? So if you have everything figured out, guess what? Go help others inside of the community, build that goodwill so that way when you do need help, you can actually go ahead and reach out to people for that as well. Okay, so that, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be the test that we ran with the Kevin Hart on here for the email one. And of course, as I said earlier, if you do have right over here, if you do have the SMS and email one, so let's say, for example, my A2P gets approved, what I'm going to then do is I'm going to come over here and I'm going to go ahead and put this one into draft. And then I'm going to go ahead and turn on the SMS and email one, because now my A2P has been approved. So that way, if I get a new appointment, it is automatically going to go ahead and send them these as well. All right, so if we go back into the guide, I know this was a little bit of a more in-depth training, but we had to walk you through exactly what each of the pieces are. And then obviously we had to troubleshoot as well. But what's going to be next here is that we're not done just yet. We're going to go ahead and walk you through the rest of the automation training. The biggest thing that I want you to go ahead and explain to you after all this is that you need to make sure that you go ahead and pause this training and run the entire system through its tests. This is very important, okay? Because we ran into an issue here because of the specifics of this account, but then based off of your specific situation, you got to go in and actually build it properly and do the testing multiple times in different ways, right? Maybe another test that you might want to do is you might want to go into a contact and then manually go in and say, cool, I'm going to go in and manually book the appointment and see what the automations and what the actual reminders look like. So you might go into the contact record and then hit add appointment and then book an appointment that way, right? So you want to hit this from different directions, right? Okay, what happens if the actual contact books the appointment? What happens if I manually book the appointment? What happens if, XYZ? You got to test this so that way you know that when the time comes to actually be able to go ahead and use the automation, it is going to work the way that you want it to work, okay? So make sure that you are going ahead and doing that. Ladies and gentlemen, progress shines because of your dedication. Keep up the great work. You're doing an amazing job. You're making progress layer by layer by layer, brick by brick by brick. This is the infrastructure that is going to house your entire business, your income. This is what's going to allow you to be able to go ahead and have the income impact and freedom that you're looking to have. So I know sometimes it takes time, especially the first time that you're doing it, but this is where it all pays off in the long term once you have this infrastructure and once you have these systems dialed in. Ladies and gentlemen, with that being said, we will catch you in the next training section.